Peace and grand rising to the sovereign, original, indigenous, natural, divine heirs. Today is May the 23rd, 2024 on the ancient moon calendar, 2025 on the ancient sun calendar, and 2024 on the Roman civic calendar. It's also 2024 on the Greco-Roman civic calendar. It's also 5784 on the ancient Hebrew Israelite calendar. It's 10,000, it's the year 10,065 going into 10,066 on the Yoruba calendar. All rise and stand and remain standing into perpetuity and in alignment and according to the ancient Noahide laws as stated by this Holy Congress. This is a sovereign living ancient Article 3 Moorish American Al-Moroccan Universal Court action. We are the divine sovereign living justices and Eggleston Pauline Denise Ritchie. My free chosen sovereign appellation is like tajiri Bay. All are in capitis diminution nolo, in red ink, in propria persona sui juris, in proprio solo, and in proprio heredes. We are capite et corpus juris legalis, which is our statement that we are the lawful and legal, natural, living head and body for our empire. All Moors are the divine, original, indigenous, sovereign, ancient, Al-Moroccan, Moorish American ascendants of the great pharaohs of Kemet and of the ancient Moabites, Canaanites, Israelites, Hamathites, Cushites, and Hittites. Our full faith and trust, our allegiance, our honor, our credit, and our energy are hereby vested in ourselves, for we are the people who are the original indigenous, natural, divine, sovereign, ancient empire state for Morocco. We're the de jure Moorish National Republic federal government. We are ancient Washington District for Colombia. We're the Universal Moorish American Consulate and the Earth-wide Article 3 Moorish American Consular Court. Today, we are demonstrating and being the law by our sovereign status, which is the original indigenous, natural, divine, sovereign, ancient Article 3, United States District 4, Columbia Court. And we are the sovereign fiduciaries, original creditors, executors, trustees, divine ministers, trustors, possessors, grantors, grantors, and titled heirs for all causes for action. We are peace. We are one nation, one state, one empire, and one God. We hereby recognize ourselves and accept our sovereign divine ascension. We do possess in our custody all land, all natural resources, and all commerce. We, the true living God nation, are not at war. We're not at war. We are not at war. We are at war. And in German, it's pronounced var. And we exercise and demonstrate all eternal, ancient, original sovereign rights at this time and at all points in time, nunc pro tunc. Today we are going to move, if we could, with regard to this statement, and we know that some may not feel comfortable stating this. If we could, this time when we make this statement, we're going to state it in our minds together 3 times. So it's really going to be silent on across this broadcast. However, we will be speaking together in the spirit realm all at once. So if we could take 30 seconds to just state this in our spirits and in our consciousness and in our hearts, our minds, through our chakras, make this statement, and then we'll move from here. Islam, and we'll do it all together. Islam. Oh, yes, thank you for that. I always forget to do that. Just a moment. There it is, Islam. Thank you for whoever, for Empress Angel, thank you, of course. Amber's Angels, I'm so glad she keeps me in line, in alignment. Let's take about 30 seconds really quickly. Thank you. This is the statement. Islam. Okay. So do you all remember the commands that we all gave regarding the removal of actors that were previously acting as CEOs? Does anyone remember that when we we spent probably a couple of months resigning actors? Does anyone remember when we did that?
Islam, yes, I do.
Islam,
we did the public law, 856, chapter 807.
And we're so full of shit. We got big ones.
Go ahead, Empress.
Yes, that's the public law we put on the public record, stating that all actors are to be removed and to stop acting.
Yes, indeed, we did that. We actually started that in around 2019, somewhere around there, 2019, because we were preparing to introduce delium in our banking. And so we put liens out there en masse. There were thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands and hundreds of thousands of liens that went out by this nation. And immediately we saw a small, we saw a good number. We kind of looked around and took a quick inventory of all of the acting that, the ones that stepped down from acting at that time. So I'm going to put a link in the chat to give you an update. And I'm just grateful that the system keeps an update for us. I'll put this link in the chat for you to see. This link that is in the chat, let's take a look at this. And again, all we're doing, this is not even about ego or anything like that. It has nothing to do with that. What it has everything to do with is that Moors, we must know that our word and our authority, there's no one who can say, oh, we don't want to do that. The Moors said it, but we're just going to ignore that. That never happens. The time span from the time that we put the commands out there, we have to remember, and I didn't put that link in the chat. I'm going to put you out too. The imposter. They're so cute. We just boot them. But when we did that, when we put those commands on the public record, some thought that, oh, the Moors, they've lost it. They don't, you can, for anyone who wills to see all of the things that we've placed on the public record as far as the laws and things, just Google it. Not too long ago, in our last Congress, actually, I did put the link that's in the chat right now. I just put the same link for what you're seeing on the screen. But when we put actually in the last Congress, Justice Willie, I believe it was, asked me, did we have a website? The reason that we don't have a specific one that I would manage is because all websites are ours, and we knew this by looking at our Grand Sheikh Tariq Bey and taking his example. He doesn't have a website that he specifically runs where you can find all this Tariq Bey stuff, but you better believe that if you search Grand Sheikh Tariq Bey, you're going to see stuff out there from multiple locations because the Moors are doing what they are supposed to be doing, which is publishing. We got that from our Grand Sheikh Taj. So what we've done...
You're not mentioned in that article at all.
We said, what we stated was that we're just going to put the documents out and let the Moors, our nation, publish herself all over. And that's why we didn't feel it necessary to have just one website where everyone could go, because if that website, let's say that website, quote unquote, crashed or went down, people will feel like, oh, I can't find what this document or that. No worries. We can, just Google it. We pointed out how initially when we first started doing this work in 2017, and we started off with the Consular Court Restoration Development Team, we would go out onto Google or some of the other search engines, and I say Google because I use that one a lot, but any other search engine, and there would only be maybe 3 or 4 websites where you could find things, and we were so grateful to just have those 3 or 4 websites where, RV Bay had 2 websites that were going. One was a public records website, and it probably is still out there, which we're so grateful for that. And then RV Bay Publications, and then there was Clock of Destiny was out there, and maybe 2 or 3 other websites that would come up in the search. We did the here, and we can do it again right now. Let's just go ahead.
Google more arrested. There will be millions.
Here, hopefully, did Justice Earl, did the justice make it in to the meeting? Morris.
I was just texting him to let him know he can come on in.
Okay, so
it's
we can.
Noble
Thank
Cow.
you, Nobility. Okay, thank you, Nobility. So we can Google, let's say, Moorish government. Let's just Google Moorish government, and let me see how many, and it doesn't show me how many. It used to show how many sites came up. And even when you see sites like things that say members believe, and they're not talking about the Moorish government here, they're talking about Moorish sovereign citizens, which is not a thing that doesn't exist either. We're sovereign, we're not citizens of the ones who write this thing. But even when you see things like that, it's all still about the Moors. It's all still about the Moors, and they're doing nothing more than validating who we are. They're validating it by even writing things. But there are so many. There's so much about Moors and Moorish government and all kinds of things, good and bad, And I wouldn't say bad.
Google it.
I wouldn't say bad. I would say it just is what it is. But the point being, because we're not afraid of any kind of publicity and things like that. We're not afraid of that because we know they're not talking about us. They can only talk about their citizens. They can't talk about us. We discuss us, and they know that. So now there's thousands and thousands and probably millions of websites all over the world out there that have something about the Moors, whether it be about the ancient Moors, our ancestors at Europe territory or wherever, or it's about us, or it's about, sovereign citizens, which is not a thing. Again, that's just more Babylonian babble. It's babble. So there are so many websites, there are so many resources and things where people can look it up. It has increased exponentially since 2017, and we're not by any means taking 100% credit for that. We're not. We are taking some credit for it because we definitely we know that this Congress woke some things up and caused some things to move. We know that we're not by any means we're not stepping back from what we've done. That's our truth. But again, when the Moors give a command on the public record, that command must be honored. When we're honorable and when we're competent, and we've been stating that the whole time, when we're competent and we give competent orders and we all do it together and we speak with one voice and we honor the process, honor the system, okay? I have a quick question. Is Empress Shasha in this meeting, or is that someone else? Is that someone else?
That's
Okay.
going to most likely be someone else.
Okay, we'll go ahead and boot them. They love to play dress up and pretend. They love to play dress up and pretend. It's like little children at a tea party wearing their mother's clothes. It's all good. So, again, when we put the law out there, and let's just take a look really quickly at this report. It says here 1,170 CEOs, and we call them actors because that's not who they are. They're not CEOs. They're actors. Left their post in 2023. That's just 2023. A 51% increase from year prior, according to Business Firm. And in reading the script here and looking at it, we know that the actors that were acting as CEOs left. They left, quote unquote, retirement packages and things on the table and just jetted. They just boot. They were out of there. They didn't care about retirement packages because they know that's not real, or any of that. So many of them just left. They're acting and things. And again, we gave the command. But see, here's the thing. Not only did we give the command, we also followed the command with proper documentation and proper information on how to get them out, how to remove actors from acting positions. Just a moment. Okay, Dave. How to remove actors from acting positions. We had to honor our system. The liens did it because some actors, if fiat was still being passed back and forth, they wouldn't care what anybody said. They would just stay there. It was all about that fiat for them. We know that.
I
We know
command
that
you to
already.
move me.
Okay. It was all about the fiat. But when the fiat stopped, because of the liens that we've done, because there were so many, I mean, the Moors buried that acting piece with liens, buried. I know Moors that have done thousands of liens. When I say thousands, I literally mean all they did was lien for like 3, 4, 5 years. They're still liening. Anytime someone violates, they just lien. So, Moors, just know that your word is the law. It's the law. But the process must be honored. Because, see, we could have told them to leave all day long. We could have quoted the Constitution. But when you stop the fiat from flying back and forth, that's when people can hear Islam nobility.
Yeah, I just had this is our case to my
Great right. Great right.
Yes. I just had an interesting, I went inside a Mercedes-Benz dealership today, and I had forgot that I leaned this guy. This guy came out of the store. He came out of his office, and he said, hey, you leaned me about a year ago. And then he didn't want to do business with me. He put me out of the store. I didn't realize how powerful the liens was. It was over a year, but I was just practicing, I was doing things and really didn't realize how powerful it was.
Very powerful. Here's the thing, Justice Caftoon. The only reason why he's even still there is because, again, they are commanded to occupy until we come. Yeah. Our arrival is more than just us showing up. It is actually lien, levy, and bond. We have to bond them so that they will be able to work.
And something about Pittsburgh, they have a real good grip on things here. They don't want to let it go. I mean, Pittsburgh is pretty tough with that. They know. You could tell. I could see it. He was so angry. Yeah. Like something's going on, and he didn't want to see me. It was like my presence is too much for him.
Well, there, the checks and stuff, that stuff, it gets so down to nothing very quickly. But see, again, we can't stop there. We have to move forward. After liening, we do the levy to possess and the bonds to bond them so that they can work. Because this is the thing. Can someone look up the term right to work? See, here's the thing. When Moors were asleep and we were not being ourselves, there's something called right to work laws. And if the union is not present, and when we say union, we're talking about the constitutional union, because that's where that's what unions were acting out, is the Constitution, the constitutional union. But see, with the constitutional union and right to work, in fact, let me just pull it up, because I was not going to pull it up, but I have it here, so I might as well pull it up. With that right to work piece, Islam, thank you, Empress, for that. With the right to work piece, it goes like this. If the union is not present, that means if the Moors are not governing. Because whenever see, this is what the union is. The union is this. It's the Moors in the workplace governing the workplace and everyone else working along. It looks like we're working alongside one another, but we're not. We're the government. We're to be telling, giving the commands because the resources belong to us. But whenever that union is not there, the subjects have a right to work law. There's a right to work law, and we're speaking that law right now because it doesn't exist until we speak it. Because they can't be here if they're not working. Because that's the reason they came here, was for commerce, remember? That thing about religious freedom and stuff, that was commercial too. That's why you saw that plate being passed in the churches, because it was still commerce. So they didn't come here for religious freedom, they came here for commerce. So because we said you can come here for that purpose, you must have a purpose here. You can't just be lounging around idle-minded here. You must work. And so because of that, and we still affirm that our ancestors state that they should be working here. And that's what all of this that's what everything that you're seeing right now is a manifestation of our standing, our authority, and then the working piece. Now, those ones that were acting as CEOs, the reason they've en masse gone because the real chiefs are here. And when I say chiefs, I'm talking all Moors. Every Moor is the chief, the head of everything. We must demonstrate that peacefully and competently, but yes, that's why the actors have just said, okay, look, the Moors told us what to do and we're going to do it. And they went, and I'm making a little bit light of it just because we've worked really hard. We've worked really hard to see. And even when we were doing the work, all of us, when we were leaning and things, we had people saying, oh, those liens don't work. Those liens don't work. I bet they do. Yes, they do. And so we knew that was not a one-day thing. It was over time as we continue to stand. And that's what's happening with everything. It's not Rome wasn't built in a day. It is a continual process as we continue standing and continue demonstrating who we are. And there's no need to fear, because even if let's say you feel like, well, I'm not ready to be a CEO. You are. As long as you know who you are, you're ready to be a CEO. You're already a chief, rather. You're already a chief. You were born a chief. So the thing about that is that they are ready. They're saying now, okay, well, what are we going to do now? The Moors are in charge. We know that. So now the Moors have to continue governing and doing the things that we do. So what does that look like? All it looks like is whenever you see anything that does not align with the law, it can't be about feelings, beliefs, and egos. It's not about any of that. It's about the law. When you see things that do not align with the law, like what I saw yesterday, then you don't get mad about it. You don't argue with the people. You don't do any of that. You just demonstrate the process of lien, levy, and bond, and then a copy of the Constitution that you have written, not anything that you pull offline from some black. Okay. Islam.
Can you share with the audience, with our congressional members here today, the relationship between what you just stated with the right to work, and that even our subjects have the right to work because they're here on the land, that's what they came here for, and how that relates to Social Security and now the Social Security ministry? Because
Social Security must be restated.
Yeah.
People don't have to, because, it must be restated. We all worked in the last era for the most part. So, there's things that are due to us. However, with us governing, we've elevated above the government programs, piece, even though some Moors will use that as they transition up. Okay, as they rise, they'll use those programs. However, they must be governed by us anyway. So, Social Security, VA, Veterans Administration or Veterans Ministry monies and all of those, retirement and things like that, people don't have to worry about losing those things because they're all restated. And we're just going to, and bonded. We're just going to continue doing that, restating and bonding as we see things being, that is where it's necessary to do that. And that's why we stated that the liens and the levies and the bonds, that's a public thing where the public benefits from that. Everyone benefits from that, no matter whether you're a subject or you're the Moors. So they're going to continue sending that in as much as they can. The system does that, but when the system runs out of ones and zeros, it just runs out of ones and zeros from that previous enactment, because all that was acting anyway. So, for example, I'm a veteran, so I was in the Air Force back in my sleep. Well, we're working now. All we're doing now is restating everything. I had to lien, levy, and bond that process years ago. I had to do that. When we first found out about these processes, the liens and levies and bonds, I had to go ahead and lien, levy, and bond. I couldn't worry about whether it was going to still come to the bank account. I couldn't worry about that. It had to be lien, levied, and bonded. I knew that. So has it stopped? No, not at all. It hasn't. Do I have, so now we're liening, levying, and bonding everything else. So we must continue to do that so that the people, but what we can do also is that those who have lost that piece, they can have a universal basic income until they're standing. With Moors, it won't take us long to stand because so many of us are standing already. I don't need Veterans Administration from the last era. I don't need that check with all the money I have here. We got delium everywhere. However, however, there are some who don't see it quite yet the way we see it. And for them, things will continue until they demonstrate up. They're going to demonstrate up too. And we're assisting the uplifting of all of fallen humanity by doing what we're doing. Lien, levy, and bond, everything, all whole programs, and funding them publicly. That's what we're doing.
Islam. So as a follow-up, I clearly see the vision of where we're going and how we're moving. Mm-hmm. But perhaps you could elaborate just a tiny little bit on when their source of funding, which was all fiat anyway, totally dries up and it cannot even be pretended to be issued anymore. I'll put it that way. Right. Is that kind of when our bonds that we did when we bonded up with our go back money, sovereign money? Is that when that kicks in because we already bonded that ministry and now you've got to flip the switch and now you have go back money? Is that the idea that we have in mind? So,
yes. It's going to switch over like it did in 69, 70, 71, 72.
Yeah, around that era. I remember.
It's going to switch there. It's going to switch that way. So it'll be just a smooth transition. That is what we are willing. Just a moment. That is what we are doing. Let us show you right to work, that piece.
Islam, can you open the call for Brother Love, please?
Yes, I can.
Thank you.
Thank you, Empress. Let me just pull some of these pieces here so that we can put the pieces together. Even regarding what you're stating, Noble Phoenix. let me just show you right to work, what that looks like. Islam. Just one moment. Let me see if I can collect this piece up really quickly. Okay, there it goes. Right to work is here. Copy, and then I'll put it right here on the screen. So this is, let me just share this really quickly. This is what right to work is, okay? Right to work. I would not pull that link out of the chat. There's a link in the chat. I would not pull that one out. Something about delirium. Yeah, don't click that link, because delirium should not be recreated. It's already created. So can you all see right to work on the screen?
Islam, yes.
Okay. So it says designating or of laws or legislation prohibiting the union shop. Right to work and the union shop are at odds with each other. That's like when the union is there, no one can say they have a right to work, because we determine who works and who doesn't. We're the head of the union shop. The workplace is what the union shop is. It's the workplace. And now that we are governing, okay, then right to work goes away and we state what's going on. We govern the workplace. When we were not governing the workplace, that was when, like when we first woke up, we noticed that we would say and do things when we felt violated, and they would just keep on going, doing what they were doing. They were invoking, quote, in their acting, right to work, meaning if you're not going to govern, we're just going to keep going until you start governing. Okay. Well, the union shop is the constitutional shop. And so the constitutional shop says that the Moors are in charge and that the Constitution stands. It always has been and always will be. And we determine, and generally we are at will. We do things at will. However, we're very fair about the things that we do. Okay? So with that being stated, hopefully that sheds some light even on those who were working in the previous era. Many of us, many of our, for example, my consort is retired from the military. He was in the Army for 30 years. Well, what is that going to look like? It's going to look like the heirs standing and being themselves and letting the system and speaking to the system. And that's why we say all Moors, all subjects, all people. Whenever we're doing our demonstrations, we include everyone, like we did on our bonds. We included everyone, subjects, everyone, the Moors, everyone, because everyone has a right to be sustained if they've worked previously. There's a way that if they have that paperwork, it can be restated. It must be restated, by the way. It can't not be restated.
And why don't you have that?
We can't use it as it is.
Why don't you have that?
We can't use it as it is. We can't use the paperwork as it is. We have to restate it, just like we're doing everything else. And I did a demonstration yesterday where I went to a particular place that I had been, we stated probably a year ago that at some point we'll take the time to go and do the research. We went to a place to do the research, and we willed to just look around and look at and see what people, what they're doing. And the one at the front, at the desk, who was seated at the desk, said, well, you'll have to look from here. You can't go walking around the place. You have to look from here. And it's because they, when they let people in, people come in and they pick up whatever it is they will to have, and then they go out the back, out the back door. So it's like a one-way thing where you go in and you keep going after you've gotten whatever you get, but you sign up and check in at the front desk. Well, we weren't going to sign any paper. We weren't going to take anything from there. We just went to look and see the process and see what kind of paperwork they give so we can restate everything. For others, we're not really even restating it for ourselves. We're restating it for everyone, including Moors, So I didn't argue with them. I did ask the name, of course. We do the court actions. We always do that. It was not my will to go there and be going back and forth with people. I just wasn't going to do that. I did the court action. I didn't really care to look around because the place was so small. I could pretty much see from where I was standing anyway. So like I said, I told him, I I didn't come here to harm, to be at war. I'm not at war. And so I got the paperwork, whatever the paperwork was, just so that I could see what it is. They definitely have the court action piece down where if someone comes in
And
there,
so you got rejected again.
they tell them to have a seat at, how someone is sitting at a desk, they tell them to have a seat. And then they proceed to ask them questions and things of that nature. And we in our sleep, we thought that's normal. You just sit down and you get asked some questions. Well, we know the process. We know what's going on out there, so we know we don't sit down. We didn't sit down. We weren't going to sit down and do anything. We just came because we had said on our Congress, we're going to go there and look and see the process. And in keeping with our word, we finally made some time to go out and look. Well, the more I thought about it, the more it made sense to me that, for example, if it's a public place, and I could have said this while I was there, but again, I just went to do my lab work, to see how they treat people, to see what, what's going on and who's doing what at the territory, like we always do, go out and check the territory. And it occurred to me once I got back here and thought about, okay, the demonstration and how it went, it was 100% successful. I got what I came for, which was the documentation, the paperwork that they give people. But it occurred to me that that even by stating, now I wasn't bothered by this, but I was thinking about other people who may come in and may want to look around before they sit down and have a court action done on them. It occurred to me that it's against the Fourth Amendment to do that in a public place. Did you all know, and I'll just ask this question, is it lawful or legal that when you're going into a courthouse that you go through metal detectors and searching? And the thing where they do the wand and make sure you don't have any weapons or guns or anything like that. Is that according to the law?
Sounds like another one of your excuses.
Is it according to the law?
No, it is not.
And why?
because we have the right to bear arms with an S.
Except not on federal property. So if the courthouse is a courthouse, you can't. And
public.
Yeah.
We discussed this prior that when it's public property, you have those constitutional rights because it's public. When it's private, then it's commercial, and then it's contrary to the Constitution.
So in a federal, for example, a post office or a place like that, a post office, you cannot bring weapons in there. That is unconstitutional. But let me tell you why. The post office has its own militia. People don't know that, but the Universal Postal Union has a military. It's an army. People don't know that because they don't see it very often. But you can't come on into a post office with a weapon. You can't go to any federal building with weapons because there's a military. So now we know they're actors, and we know that this doesn't apply to them. But for the sake of the law, the law states that weapons cannot be brought to any place federal because there's already a well-organized militia. And of course we know that we're who we are, but that's why. So when it comes to the average Joe, and see, again, even that right to bear arms piece, we talked about this before. You're right, Empress. That right to bear arms piece, you must be a well-organized militia for that to even count. You must be on the public record as a militia. See, that's the process. And that's why Moors keep getting in trouble for trying to do that stuff they're not being competent about that. They've not, before, and we've stated this before any guns show up, there's some paperwork somewhere. There's paperwork somewhere on the record that says everybody there who has the gun, because see, you have to be qualified. Who's proving that? Who says that you're qualified to carry? Well, that's what proper process, legal process by our system, not any foreign system, not any fakes, none of that. Our system. We've already shown how we record weapons. We've shown how we record pistol permits and things. We just restate them. Those who have a pistol license, those who have firearms training. I have firearms training from being in the military. So I still have my documents from that enactment. So what do? Restate it. Restate it for automatic weapons. Not weapons, firearms. We have to use the right language too. And that's another thing, because Moors don't use weapons, we use firearms because it's a part of the body. The firearm, that means that it's attached to our hand. It's an extension of us. That's why it's called a firearm. Just like our pens are an extension of us. So there has to be proper statement of all of that. A militia can't just show up and only 2 people know how to use the weapons and the rest of them are there because they feel an obligation to protect. You must back that up. The obligation to protect is training, erudition at firearms. According to the Constitution, it says a well-organized militia. A well-organized militia. Not just Joe Blow and Susie down the street. Nope. We are currently a well-organized militia. We just use pens. Because, see, the paper comes before any guns come. There has to be some paper. And it must be proper. It must be legal and lawful. So status is first, where not guns, firearms are concerned. Status is first. Because who's on the land? Who's on the land with guns and weapons when the Moors have stated that if that's not a well-organized militia according to our Constitution, they are not supposed to have that. They're not supposed to have it. And that is why the actors are, they talk about, they're coming for our guns. They're coming for our guns. You ain't supposed to have no gun. It's a firearm. There's a difference between a firearm and a gun. A firearm is properly recorded. You don't record guns. You record firearms. Because a gun has several different meanings. Guns are arms anyway. When they say show us your guns at the gym, people show their muscles. So having stated all of that, all of these are things that we must know. Things that we must know. And it's not difficult. It's okay to just study the processes.
Islam.
Study the Constitution and the one that we've restated. Islam. No, Bill.
Islam to all, Pakistan to all. As I'm listening to you state that in regards to the post office having a military, if one, for example, one of the postmasters, let's say one of our postmasters was kidnapped, we would notify whom. I'm referencing this question in regards to Sasha. Whom should we? Because this is what we've been doing behind the scenes. Provost Marshals, military, leaning, levy bond, so we can activate them to get our sister. We've not heard anything from Sister Nana in regards to her sister being kidnapped. So that brought to mind Sister Sasha. She is the Postmaster General, by the way. So
she is.
She has been kidnapped, not arrested. So I want to bring that to the front line on tape.
So we don't use the term kidnap because she's not a kid. That's why we don't use that term.
Okay, well, I use that term, but I know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
But remove unlawfully and all that. So we want her returned back to us whole and healthy. So has anyone heard any news in regards to Sasha's situation? Islam.
That was the intent to share that today. Small message from Nana. Her nephew, being the son of Sasha, visited her recently. They have some kind of bail hearing on June 7th. Okay, we know she will not bow down to that attempted contract to bail her out. So that is the only and last information I've gotten so far, and that was of today.
Think about that. We're so grateful for that piece of information right there. We're so grateful for that because, like we stated, she's going to stand. She's going to stand.
She broke the law and she got arrested.
The same way we did.
She broke the law. She got
the same way we stood. She is the law. Yes, she's being tested. To whom much is given, much is required. We've been there already a couple of times.
You haven't been in a
So
Jamaican
then let's we know Empress Sasha is going to stand, and the fact that we're hearing from her, we know she's well. Are those conditions the best conditions for testing? Yes. For her, no. For the nobility, no. We know that. Nobility is proven. It is not assumed. She will stand the same way we did and the same way all the Moors have done. So just a moment. So let's not try to feed that into changing into something that it's not, and I'm talking just in general, because when things like that happen, when Moors get tested, sometimes others want to make it something it shouldn't be. She's being tested the same way all nobility is tested. Throughout time, we've been tested, and every single time we come out stronger, better, faster, like the bionic man and the bionic woman. We come out better, stronger, faster, smarter, braver. And I'm a little bit passionate about that, just a little bit.
Me too.
Because I know her.
Mm-hmm.
I know me. And I know other Moors who will stand and won't be scared. And I'm gonna calm my energy down, because people will run around hollering they sovereign all day, every day until a test comes.
Until the test comes. True.
And then that stuff changes. So, we've been to the place where we were tired. Sometimes we were, whatever. Okay, get some rest and then wake back up and be yourself. Heirs to the all land and all natural resources, all commerce, all gold, all silver, heirs to everything. Did you think it was going to be like taking candy from a baby? This is your estate.
She broke the law. She broke.
This is your estate.
Yeah, they're fighting tooth and nail. Trust me, some of us are getting harder than others. If you're not being,
hold on, please, hold on. You saying some of us are getting it harder than others? Let's just hold on a minute, because we're not going to.
That's just my opinion of what I've experienced from other people. But go ahead, it's long.
Opinions aside, Noble Howard, because see, we have to watch what we say so we don't inject energy into her test. She's standing. Why won't we continue to speak that she's standing? Why won't we do that? Let's all do that. Let's all provide more energy for her as she stands, as Consul Lamont stands, as any other Moor stand, as we've stood. So this is not something that we don't know about. We've done it. We've done that.
Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego.
Do you know what's at stake? Do you know how much wealth we have? And how we must be prepared, and we must, because we're ready. We got the apparatus of the state in place because we're the state. So, Empress Shasha will stand. I have complete. I'm not even worried about whether she's going to stand or not. I'm not even worried about it, because I know her. She's got the same spirit as the rest of the matriarchs. How about that, Empress Cynthia?
All right now,
a lot of us.
All right now, Islam.
A lot of us don't speak of our testing, and but we know we have to do this, because what are we going to leave our children? I've been going through a 6-year test, and asked my son and my husband, and but we try to turn every poison into medicine along the way. But I know I must do this, because the world won't change. If I don't do this, who will? I can't depend on someone else. I have to be the one to step out. And yes, it's difficult dealing with that, with the old system, and it ain't pretty. But a lot of us are still being tested out here. We just don't speak of it. I just wanted to share that.
You know what? I don't speak of all my tests either, but to me, the main ones are the ones that I did speak about. You all saw us go through the POW court test. Because, see, I call the jail a court. It was a court all the time I was there. It was a court. Wherever I am, that's court. Wherever you are, the court came with you because you're the court. So we don't talk about all of our tests. We talk about most of them, though. And we just work it out. This Congress has assisted greatly where our tests are concerned because you all just tell it like it is.
Islam members.
Islam nobility.
I got to talk a little bit about my situation or our situation as a family here in Colorado. We have dealt with the courts. We have been shot at. We've had people come.
Hold on a minute. Hold on just a moment.
Yes.
On this platform, there is no court but us.
Yes.
So as you're telling what you're telling, we know it's emotional, but our language must be correct.
Islam.
I yield the floor.
The de facto court system that the United States Corporation has put in place has pretty much tried to do their worst against us, which we knew it wasn't going to work. But they have done everything they could and thrown the kitchen sink at us. And the levy process, all these processes work. I don't know what people are doing. I don't know what people are doing wrong. But us as Moors, we got to take a stand. And we took a stand about 2 years ago. And they've tried to and put fear in us to move us out of my domicile and our family and my kids. And we've stood up against everything that they've done. And thanks to you, Empress Light and Grand Sheikh Taraj Bey, you guys have given us the tools and given us the knowledge and the understanding and helping us to wake us up a little bit more in a way that it's empowering. And it's getting me to a point now to where I'm understanding my consciousness and who I am. And it's given me a confidence that it doesn't matter what these people do. Once we initiate who we are in our system and take control of our system, there's nothing they can do. And for those who don't think that it's possible, me and my family are living proof of the journey and the battles that, I mean, one day we woke up, they shot at our domicile on a Wednesday, came back and shot at our domicile again on a Friday. Tried to come into our home and arrest my son, and multiple times pulled over. And I know what they pulled me over for. They just wanted to see who I was. They wanted to see if I was still asleep. And it's interesting that these things that they're thrown at us, they're tests. And they don't understand it's just making us stronger as we go. So they can come with anything they want. We going to overcome it at a greater level than they could ever imagine. Islam, I rest.
Islam, and we're not going to give them permission to come. We're not going to do that. But yes, Islam nobility, thank you for that, because it's important that we know that we're the law peacefully. And it's important that we know that we must stand. We're not, and here's the thing. It's not like we can stand and govern or we can just chill out. No, we must govern. At all times, we must govern. All that is court actions. Every time your mouth opens, court actions. Okay? Court actions, we must be the court at all times. We must be the court at all times. And here's the thing. All of the offices that we govern, those offices are actually, because we're the law, those offices are above a detainment. According to the law, they're above a detainment. A detainment. But you must be competent to state that. You must be competent to state that. The state pays law enforcement. And again, we know we're law enforcement. The state pays law enforcement. And again, all we're doing right now is just continuing to move up, further and further and further up in terms of competence at stating who we are and all. And to me, the court action language and questions is the best thing I've ever. Our ancestors knew what they were doing when they made things the way they made things, where we do a court action and we ask questions, because see, asking questions more. Oof, this is another something that hit me like a freight train this morning in the most beautiful way. When we started talking earlier in Congress about the Fourth Amendment, illegal search and seizure, did you know that a fake court, no, let's not talk about them, let's talk about us, because we're a real court. Real courts are doing a search when we're asking questions. We're automatically enforcing the law when we start asking questions. It's a search. And when you look the word search up, it's an investigation. And when we go out, like the demonstration, it's not even, I hesitate to call them demonstrations anymore because that's all we do. It's just the way we live. That's how we do. When we ask the name, what is your name? And we start saying little things, as the Spirit leads us. The Spirit didn't lead me to go all in on the Constitution and all of that with this one. It was just a simple something, just an investigation to find out what's going on. That's all it was, an investigation. And with the investigation, we're just asking questions. What is your name? What are you doing here? What is the process here? And as you know, as usual, when people start talking about a process, they don't really know what they're talking about. And you see all the holes in it. It's like Swiss cheese right there, holes in it. So it's up to us to fix that. So these processes that we've been placing on the public record are, when we get the process right, we see the result of that. It's on the screen. When we get the process right, the system will do what it's supposed to do, thereby making those who ascribe to the system do what they're supposed to do. So when those that were previously doing business as CEOs, when they got the liens, see, as long as the fiat was flying back and forth, they were really, they knew with the fiat piece that, okay, they haven't rebutted fiat yet. Because if they rebut fiat, the fiat is going to stop and they're going to be out the door. The fakes were going to be out the door. And that's why they didn't really care about people yelling where are the heirs? Where are the heirs? You can yell that all day and night. But if you don't know your own system, which we do, when you learn your system, again, and that's probably why yesterday my spirit, I wasn't even going to go back and forth with anybody because I already know what to do. I know what to do to gain alignment from that resource. I know what to do to gain alignment. others who do. You don't have to argue with anybody. You don't have to go back and forth or anything. Lien, levy, bond, court actions, proper notification, an exchange on the public record. I didn't have to do anything. I didn't even get worked up. I was surprised at how peaceful I was and the peace that I felt knowing the process. Restate the process and then go and restate the logos, because every place that you go to, Moors, every place that you go to, all you have to do is get the paperwork. Whatever paperwork they're handing out to people, just get a copy of it. That's all you need. Go home, restate it, restate the logo. Put on that whatever it is that is the law. And when you put the law on there, give it back to them.
Islam.
With an affidavit. Islam nobility.
I will to just add by way of reminder to reinforce something that we established many, many Congresses ago. And with regards to the lien, levy, and bonding process, that is only the beginning. So I will to remind our heirs and those that are doing them, your work and ministry is not complete with just the lien, levy, and bond, or just the lien and the levy. It's not complete. You may will to come back and finish the other steps, but we established there's 10 steps to that process. So I looked back at what I have already done with the 20 or 30 some companies, whatever it is, and I said, oh, wow, yes, I have to go back and do all of these other steps as well to be competent and finish my demonstration. So I will to remind our heirs, our fellow heirs and other Congress members that when you're doing this, remember, it's not just the lien and levy and then move on to the next and move on to a billion companies, and then you never finish the whole process. That's a great start. It's a great start, but it's not complete. Islam.
Let me say this too. To the new Moors who may not necessarily know those processes yet, don't worry about it. Just go ahead and keep moving at the pace that your spirit and the ancestors have you moving at. Move at your pace, and the ancestors will cover you with protection while you're doing that. I am a living, breathing manifestation of them covering us as we go. Just keep learning, keep moving, keep going. And they will protect you and they will cover you as you're learning. So don't be intimidated by a bunch of processes and things. Don't be intimidated by that. Take it one step at a time, move at your own pace, listen to your spirit first. Islam Empress.
How do we approach the Provost Marshal? First question is, what's the difference in using the Provost Marshal and using a U.S. Marshal? And how do we approach them for protection?
So here's the difference. One of them is, okay, so the Provost Marshal is the older of the two, if my memory serves me correctly. The Provost Marshal is the oldest office of the two. Okay, Provost Marshal was before U.S. Marshal or United States Marshals. The Provost Marshal is an Army position, and the United States Marshals is a land. It's kind of like a step above the National Guard. Mm-hmm. However, Moors, this is our observation about Provost Marshal and all of that. Yes, Provost Marshal is a resource. You will find less and less need to even contact a Provost Marshal as you become more competent at the processes, because a Provost Marshal is not going to move unless you have exhausted all processes.
The remedies. Okay.
All the remedies. We know that that's the law. The law is we don't go to a war position. We use the peaceful processes, and we can see on the screen that the process works. And here's the thing: anybody who is acting improperly can be removed when the processes are done properly. Anybody claiming to be a mortgage company, that thing will not even be around when the processes are done properly. And we've shown that we're not hiding the processes. We're not even charging for the processes. It's just taking the time to demonstrate the processes. The ancestors entrusted us with the knowledge that we would do it that way. And then when we get now that we have our own money, we can do it, we can do exchanges regarding the processes. But some they don't want to do the processes. I don't get that, but our ancestors know, and plus the Moors know to follow their spirit. Whatever their spirit is saying is what they should do first and foremost. Because when we first nationalized, we didn't have these processes. We didn't know anything about any of this. None.
Islam?
This is money, and we didn't know anything about it.
Islam, can you open the call for impersonalities, please?
Islam.
Gratitude.
So it's amazing to me that all of these processes have been out there, and we worked in all types of finance and management and all types of stuff, and did budgets and everything, contracting and everything, and did not see the other side of the processes, not as in depth as the ancestors have given us. So,
okay,
we have to be willing to do the processes, do the study, and then go within in your spirit and let your spirit speak to you while you're doing it. And when you hear the ancestors speaking to you from within, just know that they'll cover you. They'll make it so that no one kicks your door in. They'll make it so that no one bothers you while you're doing the study. And then demonstrate when the spirit leads you to demonstrate. Go ahead and demonstrate it. And then study some more. Look at what happened. Look at what you did. Look at the results of that, and then demonstrate again. Do some more lab work. Do some more study. Do some more research, and then demonstrate what you've done. We are scientists. We're scientists. We're judicial scientists. We're land scientists. We're astronomical scientists and cosmological scientists and science scientists and ecclesiastical scientists.
Okay.
So all of this is, that's what this is. We heard in the past Amor say something about not wanting to be a crash test dummy, and we're like, okay, the last thing you should be is a dummy of any kind, first and foremost. Secondly, again, the ancestors will cover and protect you like they're protecting Empress Shasha when you just stand. Do what you know to do. Do what the ancestors have impressed upon you to do. Do according to your study, because that's all we did. And the ancestors were right there. They were right there. The whole time they were right there for us. So, and I'm no different from you all. They're going to be there for you too. They have been already. They have been already. So with that being stated, are there any other questions, comments, wisdom? Again, as you can see on the screen, our word is the law, and we don't enter the law, and we don't enter.
Islam.
Doesn't matter who it is, Islam, Empress.
Doesn't matter who it is, Islam, Empress. Just a comment. Every time I look at those videos of all of the major cities that are now ghost town, yes, those liens work. That's why CEOs no longer have a job.
Because they weren't CEOs to begin with. They were not. They were actors. They were actors. They were not real. And here's the thing that the ancestors made really clear to us this week. They said, we do not have to participate in someone's script, someone's play, someone's theater, someone's acting. We don't have to participate in that.
Is everybody traveling to Federal Way this summer like Pauline promised?
Just a moment. Let's make sure we go on and get this one too.
Remember how Pauline said everybody was going to travel to Federal Way?
Got to talk faster than that, which you cannot do. Let's see. Just one moment. Let me get this other one out as well. That and that. So here's the thing. They said that just because some actors decided to put on a play doesn't mean you have to go and participate in it. In fact, we shouldn't be participating in their plays and scripts and things and their enactment. We should not be. We shouldn't be. We are to be ourselves, our real selves. Period. Anyone who is even in those situations, who's being tested, the court action language is it's a key. It's a key. It's the way out. It's the way out. Think about a court action from start to finish. It's the way out. Because you got to remember, they were using court actions anyway. They were using court actions anyway in their enactment that weren't even competent court actions. You know, just first thing they did was establishing identity. So, can I have your license and registration or whatever? That's an attempt to identify. And then people pulling out their stuff. Well, if you pull out their stuff, then they got you already, really. Because you're pulling out their stuff. You're pulling out, you might as well pull out a death certificate. And when I say a death certificate, I mean in terms of dead at law. Not death, but dead at law. Because we don't die. We don't. So I went to a place last week. I did a demonstration last week. And the ancestors were speaking to me even as I first stepped foot in the door. I stepped foot in the door of this establishment, this place. And the first thing the ancestors said to me as soon as I got in the door, before I said anything to anybody, the first thing they said was, light you don't have any of their stuff. You don't have any debt notes in there. You got delium in there in your wallet. You don't have any of their IDs. You've got all IDs that you created, which is what we should have. You don't have anything of theirs at all. Anything. So after a while, like why go there? It's going to have to shut down because there's no connection there besides you governing the place. So either everybody's going to have to get ID from us or they're going to have to get out of there. And I didn't have to argue back and forth with anybody about that. That's just something that it's like the ancestors turned on a spotlight and that spotlight was just shining down on me, putting that information out there for me to just recognize and note. We don't have any of their. I didn't have a passport, a driver's license. I didn't even have a quarter. I had silver coins. I didn't have anything that anyone could say. Nothing. And I had a red pen in my wallet as well. And my sister said, well, think about that for a minute. You don't have anything at all that ties you to that.
No, but you was bearing arms, weren't you, with your red pen?
Yes. Indeed. All day, every day. And I had a blue pen too, because I keep a blue pen for when I'm doing commerce. If I have to sign anything that I've written or, something of that nature, which I don't even have to sign things these days that I don't create. But that was when I knew, when they said that, I knew that, okay, it's time to go to the next level with this, with everything that we're doing. Because did I have ID? Yes, I had identification. Plenty of identification. Plenty. Did I have money? Yes, I had thousands and thousands in my wallet of delium. Gold, real money. 2 silver coins, a driver's license, a postmaster general ID, my national ID. So it was, all I could think was, okay, time to go to another level here. Just a moment. Just a moment, Morris.
Not even.
Just a moment. Islam. So, with that being stated, the next thing that we will to bring forth is something that we started in our previous Congress, where money literacy, because again, in the previous era, we were not taught how to use money. We were not taught how to govern money in whatever forms or formats or manifestations the money manifested. We were not taught that. I was in management and was not really taught how to use money.
The so-called
Just a moment.
resignation.
Just a moment.
Young people, according to a record
Just a moment. We were not taught how to use money. We were taught processes and, business processes, but we were not taught how to prosper. So does anyone have some wisdom about the difference between debt, credit, and equity? We got into this briefly in the previous in the previous Congress, rather. The difference between debt, credit, and equity. And whenever we're thinking about these terms, we're always thinking about court, because everything is a court action. Everything is a court action. No matter what it is, it's a court action. Everything is a court action.
Islam, Empress.
Islam, nobility.
Much praise and honor to you. One question, though, do we have debt in our system?
No, we don't have debt. We don't have debt in our system.
Exactly.
It's not called debt. There are balances that are adjusted on the ledgers. So there are entries. Is it an entry to add, or is it an entry to move it to somewhere else? So if I were to pay you and my ledger was I subtracted $1 million from my ledger, you would just add $1 million to your ledger. It's not debt, it's actually credit moving from one place to another. Because even when I take that $1 million and subtract it from my ledger, that $1 million still has value because it was subtracted from my ledger. It still has value. In terms of, let's say, if I sold you something, and or I gave you $1 million for something you sold me, let's say that, for example. Then for my ledger, I could just say last year we purchased $6 million in assets from Noble Kaftoum, or any of the nobles. So even though it wasn't spent, because we don't use that word, or I don't use that word. Even though it was transferred to you, it's still a plus on my end in terms of the amount of business that was done. So it's still going to work either way in our favor. So we don't really have debt, we have entries. Entries that are either minused or added, given away or received. And they call it receipts, receiving, and there's another word, payables and receivables. It's not debt, it's just payables and receivables.
So the minuses up, they become plus signs, right?
No, they're still minus signs, but you can add them all up and know that that's how much business was done. And when you say this is how much business was done, you can then bundle that and use it in some way. So it can still be used, even though those entries left your books and went to someone else's books. Though the fact that they left says that this is how much business was done. And you can use that even for advertising. You can use it because there's bonds issued between the two. Or however you and your company chooses to note that. Okay. However you choose to note it. Islam.
Thank you.
Islam. So yes, it is a minus for all intents and purposes of accounting, proper accounting. Yeah.
Well, can these people then be corporations and stuff be charged with fraud for forcing people to pay debt with debt?
When you say force, I just want to think about this for a moment. When you say forcing people to pay debt, what do you mean forcing? Did they put a gun to anyone's head?
No. They didn't use a gun, but they took the gold from the people, the gold and silver from the people.
The Moors had to give it, just like we possess all land, all natural resources, and all commerce. It's already ours. So it was just a matter of, did the Moors say that the gold was taken from them? No, we didn't say that. We didn't agree to that. So we just took it back. We just proclaimed that we have it, because the land is not going to move. The land is not moving anywhere. See, so it's all about what comes out of the mouths of the Moors. It's all about what comes out of our mouths. That's why our words are so important.
Ask Willie about the real world.
People don't really want to take responsibility for their mouths and things that come out of their mouths. They want to keep going past that. You can't keep going past that. We must all look at what comes out of our mouths and fix it. We have to. Because it's by our word. In the beginning of everything was the word. In the beginning of everything was the word. So, no, we're not victims. We can't. It's impossible for the gods and the lords of the land to be victims. It's impossible.
Okay.
It's impossible for us to say someone did something under threat, duress, and coercion to us. No, they didn't, because we could have still said no. And we have. We can still say no. No matter what is perceived to be taken. If there's a perception that, they're going to take this or that, the answer is still no. The answer has to be no. We did that, and we're not bragging. We're just stating for the record that, our freedom is important to us. But even at that, when we were faced, and we weren't really facing that, we knew we weren't, but we must say no. We must stand. We must. We have to. We don't, our heirs don't need to be dealing with that. And since we're doing it, they're not going to have to deal with that. Now they're left to create and be prosperous. Not left, we don't leave them, but you know what I mean. Our heirs are free to create and prosper because we're governing. No one has forced us to do anything. It's a test to see if you'll stand. It's a test to see if you'll stand. Anything someone is trying to save where they say, well, I'm just going to do what they say, don't do that, because whether it be at that time, 6 months later, a year later, that test is going to come back again. So you might as well pass it the first time, or pass it the second time, or pass it when you can, so that you don't have to keep facing that same test over and over and over and over and over. And people say, they just keep saying, I sent them something, they just keep sending. What did you send? Look at it and then bring it up, elevate it some more too. Let your spirit lead you so that you don't have to keep going through that test.
Islam,
Empress.
I'd like to start answering this question that we have on the screen, if we may. Islam? Okay, so I'd like to start with equity. Equity is dealing with fairness, justice, and status, right? So when because that's personam jurisdiction. And then when we go to credit now, credit is the legal and lawful way of stating the value of the currency of exchange. That's how I would state it. And then debt just doesn't exist. Islam.
Islam. Thank you, Empress. So a contract to extend credit that has an end date is a debt extended by the creditor to the debtor for a finite period of time. Now we're talking about contracting. If Empress Angel and I, let's say she decides that she's going to, she wills to have 2,000 pounds of sea salt over a 6-month period for something that she's doing, whether it be a medical facility or a culinary event or something of that nature. She wills to have sea salt over 6 months. Then she and I would contract with one another for that. And whatever she does not prepay, that will be an entry that is due. Okay? Whatever she does not prepay, that will be an entry that is due. That doesn't make her a debtor. It does mean that there's something that is due. And again, that's how, if Moors decide to do it that way. But see, in the past, in ancient times, we always prepaid everything. We prepaid everything. But then there came a time when, you know, someone would prepay something and not get what it is that they thought they were getting. And then there had to be some adjustment there. So it's all a matter of what we call it.
And Chaucer's
so
just letting her.
So while we, when it comes to contracts and Moors contracting with one another, you wouldn't call it a debtor. You would call it something else.
Yes, Mom.
Payables and receivables. So she would have something that is payable that I'm to receive in a few months, let's say at the end of the contract. Okay.
Is another word like outstanding? Because I'll never forget when I was in the library, when I was domiciling at Brooklyn. I remember taking out a book, right? And it was back in the day when they stamped the cards. It wasn't electronic like it is now. And I forgot to return the book. And so we was down there as a class, and the librarian came over to me. She goes, "Do you have a book that's outstanding?" And I was like, "Oh, that's great." Like, it was like outstanding as in like the good term, like, "Oh, you did a fantastic, outstanding job." But when I realized that she was saying outstanding as in it's due, I was like, "Oh, okay." And I was a little child at that time. And so, but anyway, so outstanding has, you know, multiple meanings. So
yeah,
so outstanding would probably be a better word.
And that is an accounting term as well. Outstanding. Yeah. That's an accounting term as well. So that's appropriate also. When we look at these processes, Morris, we're looking at it from the place of governing these processes, because there are going to be many Moors who don't know yet that they're the creditor when they come. They're not going to know. It's our job to tell them in as much as we can, but I can tell you just by, you know, some of the demonstrations and speaking with sleeping ones, some of them are not going to let go of the term black because they're black and they're proud, according to them. So they're going to come and still be thinking in terms of the old system. So we're looking at these processes from the top down. We said that in the enactment last top down. We're looking at because we're the bank. Not only are we the bank, but we're borrowing from ourselves. So borrowing from a bank to start a business with an end date to repay is a creditor-debtor relationship. And I would say we can say creditor. What's another word for debtor, Morris, that you feel comfortable with in terms of explaining this relationship? Does anyone have any suggestions?
Obligator? One who's obligated? Shorter.
Yeah, that's a term right there.
Balance due.
Obligee. But how would you state that, Empress, in terms of?
I would state it with a plus sign. Even though I'm saying balance due, I would use a plus sign.
So it would be a creditor-debtor relationship. Is that what you're saying, Empress? Or is it creditor-obligee? Or is it creditor-ower, someone who owes? However you feel.
Creditor-obligator. Obligate probably would sound better.
Yeah. Okay. Since the Constitution does mention obligations, if the money is not repaid on time, the bank changes the tone of the contract by changing their identity from creditor to lord over the business and begins to lord over the business. There is no end date to lordship. Why are we stating this? We're showing how, when we were enacting courts in the previous era, we didn't know it at the time, but those that were previously acting as judges, they would be acting as a judge one moment. The next moment, they would be acting as the beneficiary. Then after that, they would be acting as the creditor, and always trying to put the debt off on whoever was standing there trying to defend from being the debtor. So they changed hats several times without whoever was standing there knowing.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And the reason we put this on the screen is that, again, we're looking at a court. It's still a court action. When someone, let's say, for example, again, Empress Angel wills to have sea salt, and let's just say I can't provide her with the sea salt. I can't keep the terms of the contract because for some reason my sea salt machine stopped working, okay, or something like that. Well, then hats and roles start changing. It's not roles because we're not actors. Things start changing in terms of who's the creditor and who's the obligee. So we just will to make it known that if we borrow from ourselves, okay, for example, if I pull from my trust, but I don't have a way to pay my trust back, I still become obligated to my own trust. I'm still obligated to my own trust. And at any time, my trust and whoever is the trustee for my trust, which would probably still be me, can take over the business and start operating the business from that from a creditor perspective. And my trust would go from being the creditor to lording over the business because I defaulted, as it were, on paying my trust back. That's called self-governing when we do that effectively. It's called governing our own vast estate.
Islam, and accountable.
And being holding ourselves accountable.
And discipling.
Yes. Discipling. Yes. Because no one else can do that. Not with us knowing who we are. Yep. So either way, we're the Lord's. However, because think about it, we were asleep, so we weren't holding anyone accountable for the things that they were doing. You know, in the previous actors, we were not holding them accountable for what they were doing because we were asleep. We didn't know we were supposed to hold them accountable. So essentially they were self-governing, quote unquote, but not really, because Moors are always governing, just maybe not publicly, but we're always governing. So with that being stated, equity is the Lord over the business, equity is the Lord of the business, okay? Credit is the CEO or the manager, the chief or the manager of the business. Whoever the head of the business is, head of the board, head of the company, that's the creditor. Okay? But above that creditor is equity, the equitable court. And whoever it is that if that business has a problem with customers, clients, the public, whatever, then there's a court that business goes to deal with that issue. And whatever court that business goes to deal with that issue, that's equity. That means the court has lordship over the business and all of its events. It's like a bankruptcy court has the final say over anything that has to do with businesses that cannot keep their obligations or things are not done right. Or they run into hard times or whatever. And that's why it was so important for us as Moors to be the court. That was first and foremost. Before any business could be done by Moors, the court piece had to be dealt with first and foremost. And we've done that. So that we never have to go to a foreign court for anything. Quote, and it's that those weren't even courts, they were actors. And that I'm just still forever grateful to our Grand Sheikh Taj for emphasizing that part. Get the court first. Court is first. Then we can do all of that other stuff. Create our own money, you know, and those are my words. We can create our own. I just knew that once we govern where courts are concerned, then that fixes everything else. Why? Because we can do everything else and not be afraid to do it. You know, because we already know that our courts govern everything. So here's just a brief statement about equity and credit and all of that. If I sell you 40% of my business, then there's no end to that contract. Therefore, it is an equitable contract. There's no end to it. As long as I am in business and I sold you 40% of my business, you get 40% of what comes in, okay, or goes out, 40% of that. That is equity. Equity is into perpetuity and not just credit. You are an equity investor and not just a lender. The creditor of the business, which is the boss of the business, the chief or the manager or whatever, the one who's extending the business's credit to the public or to people, that's a different relationship from the equitable part. When the manager or the finance department issues money from the business to the public and the people, those contracts have an end date. So it's not equity, it's credit. And when there's a credit relationship like that, then you're the lender. That's the difference between a lender and an equity investor. An equity investor buys a portion of the business or whatever it is. And so where Moors are concerned, the majority of what we do is equitable. It doesn't end. Now, let me give you an example of that, Moors, because hopefully this will help you to see and perceive why we're so powerful. Things like the post office, for example. The post office, the Moors have 100% equity in the post office. We financed it, and anything that comes in from post office revenues automatically goes to the government. We have equity in government, 100%. We really have equity 100% in everything. There's no interest, no outside or foreign interest in what we do. No such thing, because they don't have the resources for that. So where the post office is concerned, and this has always been the case, by the way, it's the case even today. The post office, everything that's sent back and forth in the post office, all of that money, that revenue, that revenue, that's a court term. All of that revenue goes to the government, which is us. All of it. And then when we did liens, levies, and bonds, that money that went into that pot then goes out to assist those who need assistance on the land, as well as to build and reinvest in expanding the empire. That's why the lien, levy, and bond process was so important and so valuable for our government and for our nation. Some Moors did do liens that they would call personal or private liens, where it was them and they were liening some corporation for whatever, lien, levy, and bonding for themselves. All of our liens that we did were, not all of them. There was one that we did that was a personal lien, and that had to do with Federal Way, or quote unquote city of Federal Way, at those actors. That was, we willed to remove those actors from acting the way that they were acting, which was 100% successful. But all the other, like the lien on the U.S. and all of that, that was for everyone. We did that for everyone, and then we encouraged other Moors to do the same. So that's how everyone gets uplifted in terms of the resources and things that are available. That process is perpetual. It's perpetual. Because there are some Moors that have not manifested haven't been born yet. We included them in all that we did. And that's why things like the post office and things like that are perpetual. All of that continues into perpetuity until we change it into something else. If we say, okay, we're not going to have a post office this go around, we're going to have something else, some other way to do things, telepathically or whatever the case may be, drones or whatever. But still, that process is part of the inheritance of our heirs and their heirs and their heirs into perpetuity. Islam.
Islam. I have a question. You mentioned equity.
Mm-hmm.
And so my mind went into equitable contracts. We're having a little conversation over here. So equitable contracts, would that go into eminent domain as well for property in the state? So like, let's say we're desiring a domicile and we do the eminent domain because it's into perpetuity, and we're the government at all points in time, and we're the heirs at all points in time. And when we contract, it should be an equitable contract.
Well, either you're doing it as the government or you're doing it as an individual or a private, or it's private. Which is it?
Oh, I was just asking for, idea and questioning.
Well, and that's what I'm saying. Which is it? Which is it? Did you do that demonstration, or if you were going to do a demonstration for a domicile, is it going to be used for government, or is it going to be something that you're doing individually for you specifically?
Government.
And how will that domicile be used for government? Will it be? Will the public be able to come and go, or how does that work?
Well, yes, there will be office space for people to come in and get consultations and discuss and so on. So it'll be government working domicile.
But you'll be sleeping there.
Well, yes, resting.
Okay, yes, and apologies, resting there. So the portion of the domicile that's going to be used for government work has to be Did you do one lien for that place or two?
Well,
public
I did
private. Mm-hmm.
Well, we did lien it a few times, but it was always the all rise and stand language and the government leaning process.
So the process that you did was 100% for government and not for anything personal.
Yes.
Well, let's talk about it. Congress, what do you think? And what did your spirit tell you, Empress Angel, about that process?
Well, because understanding what equity and equitable contracting would possibly look like into perpetuity, to me, I feel as though it's interconnected, because at all points in time we're the government, and at all points in time, things never leave us, so it's always equitable. Which, because it's the status that we have, the not status, but it is a status, the proper persona status, proper documentation. So I don't know. I was just trying to process that whole thing as far as contracting is concerned, because you had mentioned if you became delinquent on your payments to your trust, then the trust would take over, and you would be the
you would have to work that out with the trust.
Mm-hmm.
And see, that's the only reason why banks were even brought onto the land is because that would be something worked out with the bank. But again,
where the bank,
would you go through the bank to get the funding, or would you go directly to your trust to get the funding?
Well, the trust, but we're the bank still anyway. I mean, because even if we went to the bank, it's still our bank anyway that we're going to.
Well, and but the bank has procedures and processes in place so that if something happens and you get behind on the payment, if you didn't prepay, then there's processes where that is concerned. So is it going to go that way, or are you going to prepay for it, or and all of those things are things to be looked at when you're talking about contract. When you're talking about a contract for a domicile, what kind of contract for the domicile? Is it a prepaid one, or is it just an exchange on the public record? Is it private domicile, or is it is it for the government really? Like where this domicile, this place is going to be a museum because of who lived there previously or whatever, or we're doing an office situation where this is a domicile and I live upstairs and I work down here. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, yeah.
So the contract and the way it's set up would depend on those specifications.
So it sounds like to me equitable contracting would be a prepaid type of a contract.
It would be prepaid
just because of the terms that it would afford you, because you prove that you have equity and you are equitable because of your status and position to prepay up front versus asking for a lender and credit. So that would put you in another, I guess, for lack of a better word, category.
It puts you in another category, but your category and how the house is obtained and what happens to the house otherwise. For example, if you did get a loan and you got behind on your payments or you couldn't pay your trust back, that's gonna affect the status of the house and whether it can be passed on, whether it is into perpetuity or not, because you mentioned perpetuity. All of that is going to it's going to look a lot like what it looked like in the previous era.
Mm-hmm.
And so, for example, have you ever purchased when you were in your sleep? Did you purchase a domicile at all?
No, just conveyances.
Okay, so because I was going to say it would look exactly like that. So if I were you, Empress, in order to better answer that question, I would research the process that you're speaking of, and then you can put in whatever parameters you choose to put into the contract, and then look at how it comes out. And here's the thing: when we're pulling from our trust, and we're going to pay our trust back, it's almost like we would treat that as if our trust was separate from us. In other words, we would hold ourselves accountable really for whatever that is, Yeah, we would hold ourselves accountable to our own trust on paying things back and things of that nature. So keep that in mind as you do the research on what parameters you will to put into the contract. Is it going to be prepaid? If it's going to be prepaid, things are a little different there. You're not taxed, but is the domicile going to be used as a consulate where, like you said, people coming in and out, you're assisting them there? if it's going to be a business arrangement partially and a domicile on, in addition to that, then those are percentages that you work with in the contract. Those are percentages. So, for example, all of my downstairs is when Moors come here, they use the whole downstairs. So that's 50% of whatever. So that would be a credit to you because there's something coming in for the work. However, the upstairs where you're doing personal things and people don't go up there, that's 50% towards that's going out, so to speak. So it just depends on did you prepay for the domicile? If you prepaid for it, then none of that's going to really be an issue because the only thing that will be counted is what you have coming in from the downstairs. What you have coming in from the downstairs, and that can go to paying back your trust.
Okay, that's fine.
That's how I would do it. That is actually how we do it here is 50-50. No one goes upstairs. We just have down here and people can, this is what we use when Moors come. We have gatherings. We have, people come for documentation whenever they feel like coming, really, but not really. They come during business hours. Even on weekends, sometimes Moors come by, and so we just 50 whatever they bring in terms of delium or silver and gold, we take it in and then we send it. Send the silver and gold and deposit the delium.
Follow-up question. Just for titles of names for like contracts, we went over 13 great writs, I remember previously. So would there be like some suggestions of names for types of contracts we should, guide towards and others we should steer away from? Well, I can't hear you right now. There's some I can't hear you.
And when you see them, look at contracting, real estate contracts. Look at all of that, and then write up, because you're not going to just use it as is. You're going to write up whatever it is that you're doing in terms of the domiciles and things. You're going to write it up. All contracts, it is suggested, because you can't tell sovereigns what to do, but it's suggested that all contracts start from ground zero in terms of start off with a fresh affidavit and go from there, with contracting. Because a lot of the stuff that we saw in contracts from the last era can be left out. A lot of it is unnecessary, colorable BS and madness, rather. So any kind of contracts, look at them all, we suggest. And if it's a domicile that you're going to be going for, look at real estate contracts for, for homes, do the research, and the right information will come up so that you get a clear and clean understanding before doing something like that. Yeah. It's a good piece of research. And then we have videos where Moors who did real estate came on and just went in depth, line by line, on those contracts. Empress, let me think of her appellation. It escapes me at this point. But we had an empress that came on a couple of times and just went line by line on the real estate contracts and how to restate them and all of that. So I would go back and look at those videos. Empress Angel, I think you were here when Empress I can't think of the Empress's appellation.
I remember seeing the video and receiving the templates for the work. We have them. Yes.
So I would study those and implement those to the as you understand them.
Okay.
Those. Yeah. Yeah. So with that being stated, are there any other questions, comments, wisdom regarding equity? We should always be looking at things from the equitable position to begin with. Then we look at it from the creditor position, and then we look at it from that lowest position of and I can't say lowest position, but we look at it from the perspective of others who will be coming for the services, or not services, the works and the contracts and things. More will be coming for that type of those types of contracts and things. So we should look at it from each position and work it out from each position. That's how we do things. We look at it from all perspectives, all three perspectives. And if there be a fourth perspective, we look at it from there too. Like we've done with real estate, and the difference between commercial real estate and domiciles, because the processes are not that different from one another, with just a couple of nuances. Let me see if I can get this straightened out here.
Islam, can you open for Noble Phoenix?
Yes, I will do that.
Gratitude.
It's a little smaller.
Something I'd like to comment on this, if I'm right.
Islam, Empress. Go ahead, Empress.
Who are you speaking to, me?
Yes, go ahead.
All right, yeah, so I was just trying to reach out to you. I don't know if you've seen emails or not, but I had intercepted a warranty deed. It came. So what I did, I watched one of your videos and you showed how we were able to, get our patents, land patents. Mm-hmm. And when I a couple of mine from my relatives, mm-hmm. It was a house on the land, and so when I went and do my research and checked the deeds on the record, the house is owned by the house. By bank? Strange, because it didn't have anybody's name. It said that just the address was the owner of the house. So I, in my wisdom, did an address change. And I found out that the person had the house actually under a trust. So I intercepted a package that's supposed to go to them, but it came to me. And I'm now able to see how they are getting access to our land, how they're writing up the warranty deeds, how they are writing up the mortgages and putting it under a trust, and how they are writing up the title insurance document. So I had wanted to share that with everybody so that we can use it as, first of all, I'm going to do a lien levy on these people, of course, but also, so for future reference, I will know how to do my own contracts and my own warranty deeds. But it said that the people had supposedly had sold the land for $10 in this contract on this general warranty deed, and they had got it stamped at the clerk of court. And the same person that supposedly has stamped it, he's supposed to be also a lawyer and a notary. So I'm like, okay, so he's three things in one. They're doing all kinds of stuff down here in South Carolina.
Pretending to be sovereign.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so, I mean, this contract here is very thick. And I'm like, how are they supposed to be getting a mortgage on a land? How are they supposed to even do that? If it's land that you got for $5 or $10, and how you going to turn around and put a mortgage out? It isn't, you know, I guess that's how they've been doing it and getting away with it all this time.
Well, see, they're supposed to put an exchange on the public record, a market exchange on the public record. There should be a market exchange. The $10 was just a fee to the quote-unquote county in their enactment. That was just a fee for filing the paperwork.
No, I'm talking about as far as the ownership of how the mortgage company / trust account even got the title to the land. It said that these people had sold it to him in consideration of $10 and other considerations.
Yeah, they probably did something on the side. That is what happens between persons when they're shuffling supposedly land back and forth. Whatever deal they make on the side, again, the county doesn't care about the deal on the side. They care about their fees.
Yeah, I see that they got their fees. It's printed on here.
Yeah.
But as far as like the deed itself, it's a general warranty deed, and I guess that's how he was able to, you know, supposedly build property on my family's land. So that's why I intercepted his mail.
Well, Empress, I will say this: some we can't really be mad at them. We can't really be mad at them, and here's why. We agreed in our sleep to fiat being the peace. Okay, we agreed to that
right.
in the previous era, and some still don't want to get off of it. But once real money comes into play, which is now, okay, then it's going to invalidate. Not invalidate. Invalidate is a good word, but there's a better word. It's not invalidate, but those documents can be restated with proper money, and those who are pretending to occupy that place, once you do a lien and you notify them of the lien, there is due process.
Right.
Okay. Let the due process do what it does, because that's a system. So you don't even have to look at whoever it is that's doing those things, because they're appealing to systems.
Mm-hmm.
That's why the fiat was going back and forth in the enactment, because they know that that's a system. They don't care. The system doesn't care who they are. The system has parameters. We know what those parameters are. It's lien, levy, and bond. Okay. And they call it insurance, bonding, insurance. So you know the process. So you appeal to the, not appeal, you command the system the right way. And when you command the system the right way, listen, whoever is there, they'll just wake up one morning like, I don't really want to be here, and they will abandon.
Mm-hmm.
You don't have to go and talk to them. You don't have to go and war with them. You don't have to do any of that.
The certified patent, land patent, which is the highest, title, they don't even have any of that.
Fix the system. That's what I'm saying. They didn't have to have it because nobody rebutted what was being put into the system. Nobody rebutted that. So that's why I say we can't be mad at them, because nobody rebutted it. So what we do is we look at the system and we rebut according to the process. And when we do that by affidavit, see, that's the difference between an affidavit and a form. Whoever it is used all forms. I know that. I don't even have to see the process.
Right.
So when our affidavits show up, because an affidavit is actually the law, and an unrebutted affidavit stands and is the law. That's the law. So then we don't have to worry about them. We just have to worry about
the public record. I'm just giving it time, because I know it's a time frame. If nobody rebuts it after 20, 30 days, and it stands as law. So, but yeah, I'm glad that I intercepted it, because then I can go and once I, get that affidavit back cleared, I can go by the same process as here, and we state this general warranty deed and things of that nature, and put that also on the public record once after I do my lien, levy, and bond on these impersonators.
Yeah. Well, it's not faces. It's a system. They were impersonating in the system.
Mm-hmm.
So just properly state whatever it is, whatever documentation. Properly state that documentation and have an affidavit with it. Okay. A fiduciary affidavit is my suggestion, but whatever your spirit leads you to put with it. Because see, you have the documentation, you could easily restate all of that stuff. You don't even you can scan it in and start changing and fixing and changing and editing and fixing. And then send your delium with it.
Mm.
It's
just a moment, Empress. Do you see what I'm saying, Empress? Where delium is concerned?
Yes, I mean, I
we had to have that.
Video which told us how to put that on the in the trust and how we should word it and things of that nature before we put it, use it. How we do, how we go about using it.
Yes. And again, whatever delium you have, you're going to pull that from your trust where that domicile is concerned or that land is concerned. You're going to pull it because see, that's a personal or a private thing. You're doing that individually. However, the state is still the owner because that's what taxes is about. You're the state also. And Empress Angel, I think that's gonna expand a little bit or clarify a little bit for me as I'm speaking it and everyone listening in terms of what role the government plays in our domiciles.
Mm.
Except that we're not taxed, where domiciles are concerned. So Empress, you have all the documentation. It can be restated, all of it, and then put the affidavit with it, and then you must show an exchange on a public record. They're not showing you the mortgage piece, most likely. Or if the mortgage piece is showing, it's separate companies and separate everything from what they filed at the county. See, mortgages are not filed with the county.
Right. No, the person that sent the packet, it was a lawyer, and he just sent it to the mortgage company and told them, just review over all the documents and send it back. So he sent all the documents that he did on his part, but they didn't include the title. They said the title is on the record and gave the book number or whatever is listed and had some other people's names listed as the title owner. So I'm confused.
Well, they already know that first and foremost, that's not a real title. It's a certificate of title or a certificate or a deed. It's a deed.
Mm-hmm.
It's actually a deed. And some of them call it title deed, which is not a thing. That's like saying sovereign citizen. Mm-hmm. Not the thing. We have the title to all land, all natural resources, and all commerce. So you create title, allodial title to the land by affidavit first. Then you create a deed for the county. And the deed will look exactly like the one that you got, that you can see. And if you can't see it, don't worry about it. Just pull up any deed and create one that looks similar to it.
Okay.
Except it's going to be in blue ink and not black. And it's going to have your autograph, and you can autograph and notarize, or you can get other Moors to do that. That's something that we are looking at here. We've been notarizing, stamping, sealing, and everything, all of our own documents, witnessing our own stuff and everything because we're sovereign, we can do that. But at some point, we're going to have others do that. I have had my Empress to witness some things too because she's nationalized. But
will I be able to have access to that remotely?
Huh?
Will I be able to have access to those notaries remotely because I'm in another state without any more here that I know about?
You're the notary until then.
Yes, no, I am. I have created my meaning for it.
Yeah. You're the notary until then. We just created a square notary, something that we put at the bottom of our, and we autographed.
I've seen all your stamps and your notaries and your seals.
Yeah.
So I'm getting the most of my. That's why I say you're just so brilliant, because all of this stuff that you're putting out here for us, it's actually working, and it's like nobody else was thinking about doing this stuff with you. Yeah.
We just been listening to our spirit. The same spirit that's in you is in me. We just been listening to our spirit and letting our spirit lead the way. Our ancestors, that's why I say I trust them completely, because they know exactly what they're doing with these hands and these feet and these mouths that we have, and our hearts and minds and consciousness. Our ancestors know what they're doing. We trust them.
More, with all of the Moors, they were brilliant from day one. Built the economy, built everything up, and still stands to this day. So. Like for you to speak to the system and learn how to do that, that's brilliant too. Like, who knows not to learn how to do that? Speak to their bank and learn how to, just tell the system exactly what they want to do, and they listen. It has to be commanded. It's awesome.
And that's what causes actors to move out of the way, is because they've been looking at the system, and whenever the system spit a piece of paper out, they take that and start acting and dancing and doing whatever they do, acting, whatever. Because of that piece of paper. So we're not mad at them, because we know they're just pulling stuff off a machine, and they were looking at that and pulling it off a machine. We know that. So we just said, okay, let's lean all of that out of the way, and let's speak to our system and have our system to do what it does. And as you
brilliant to even learn how to do that, the liens, the levies, and the bonds,
Yeah. We don't have to be mad at faces either. That
Right.
was the most important aspect of all of this, is we don't have to go to war on our own land. Just remember how to speak to our system.
Mm-hmm.
That's it. And our system, a strange voice, our system will not respond to it. Our system will do what we tell it to do.
Okay.
Yeah.
I appreciate all of that.
And thank you for your demonstrations, Empress, too.
Thank you. So, I'm just like, I'm trying to, do it and get it all down pat. And you guys, I don't see how you do it. It's so much work involved. It's like, I need like more than 24 hours in a day. I need about 10 arms, 15 helpers. It's like, golly, how y'all do?
You know what? We just take it one document at a time, and then when it's time to rest, we just rest. And then we start back up again, and when it's time, we just say, ancestors, just thank you for giving us the grace, the mercy, the time to do it. We've been doing it for 7 years, since 2017.
It's just like, kind of understanding for a lot of people, that they don't really, when you think about all the work that's involved, a lot of people won't have the time to do it because, they're so busy trying to just make ends meet, trying to live, trying to survive,
Yeah, I know that, and that's part of their test also. Part of the test is what's more important, your future or now? And it's not even a choice between the two, because the ancestors are going to make sure they eat and that they have a roof over their heads, and the ancestors are going to make it. There are people, and I'll say this even about that part, there were some Moors that had family they could have been with, because they didn't have the fiat to pay this stuff anyway, so they had to demonstrate. And in some cases, there was an eviction enacted. Well, they had a place to go. They were able to go with a family. It might have been uncomfortable. I get it. Might have been uncomfortable or whatever, but they were going to be facing that anyway without remedy if they hadn't declared who they were. At least now they have remedy.
Right.
And they don't have to keep going to fake foreign courts, quote unquote, because that's not, they don't have to keep acting. They can be themselves and manifest remedy for themselves.
It's just a process. So
it's a process.
You got to tap into it yet. I know the process and everything, but it's like, you know, when you, and I have so much going on, it's like, I'm like, I'm all over the place because I'm trying to like do so many things at one time.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm just grateful that our ancestors entrusted each and every one of us with the information and knowing that we were going to share it with each other. And we're connecting with each other, too. That's most important to me through all of this, is that we connect and get to know each other again.
I had got the idea of making my own tags from your the old website, and I had created my tag and put on, you know, the Moorish sovereign citizen and everything. And yesterday, when I was driving, somebody was blowing me down, you know, trying to get my attention. And my husband rolled the window down, and they was like, "Hey, how is this sovereign?" And I was like, "Oh my goodness!" Trying to drive down the street, explaining them how to become sovereign. Yeah. People see that tag and they want to know too.
They do, because most of them are dealing with issues with that anyway. The amount of fiat that they were asking has gone through the roof on some of those tags. Hundreds, from $30 to $500, you know, and crazy madness on some of them. So they are, you know, and because we're not sovereign citizens, we have the authority to govern that. We're sovereign, but we're not citizens under a fake dead court, you know. So, and then make sure, Empress, you have your tags. Make sure that your whole, like the registration is properly restated. Make sure that has taken place, because that's important. And then make sure that you have, that you create your own driver license. That's what the ancestors were stating about.
ID, and I got pulled by the police one day. They were like reading license, and I gave them that, and they let me drive that and everything. I guess because of the law kind of says that we're allowed to travel, you know, when we're doing court, we're doing, you know, having. And I showed them my ID showing that I was, you know, in court business, doing my court business.
Yeah. Our ancestors, and that's what I was saying about the ancestors covering us and protecting us while we stand and while we demonstrate. You know, it's a lot to know, but you know what? They just will that we continue moving in the direction of continued freedom, continued estate, continued wealth, and all of that.
Yes.
Because they have lavish, extravagant favor and wealth that they have for us, and that's part of it. Our freedom is the first part. Our freedom is the first part, because you can't enjoy the rest of it if you're worried about your freedom.
Yeah.
So that's why that's the most important part. That was the most prominent part for us. That was the first question we asked, you know, the ancestors when we first woke up is, well, I get that we're the heirs to all this, that, and everything, but how do we get past that? Fake courts and fake people pretending to be police, fake persons pretending to be police.
Yeah, but if I have that tag on, the police don't even mess with me no more. They'll get behind me, but they don't stop me, don't pull me over or nothing, you know, so they let me go. You know,
your energy. It's your energy, Empress.
I see everybody else with the side of the road pulled over, but
now, here's the thing. This is my suggestion, too, regarding the tags. Don't stop learning and don't stop demonstrating, but also keep moving in terms of better understanding about insurance and things like that, because there is an insurance process. All we have to do is state that, you know.
You put on the line, so I carry that in my car, and I carry the treaty with me in the car, my delirium, all of that, and that's my insurance, and my, you know, showing that I have delirium and all of that, and how you told us to state it. I did everything the way you told me to do it. So
no wonder you're having such success. No wonder. That doesn't even surprise me. No wonder.
The next thing I need to do is just get my little Morris flag to put on my car so they'll know, to put the flag,
So our suggestion about the flag even is if you're not doing commerce, it's okay to put that on your conveyance. If you're doing commerce, then our banner should be on your conveyance, because we never put our land flag out to sea, not to sea, but on the water. Our land flag stays on the land.
What's the banner?
Our banner is some would call it a backwards banner for amity and commerce, but it's this one right here, where the stars lead the way and the stripes are on the back, because by his stripes we are healed.
Right.
Islam.
Okay.
So the stripes go on the back.
I just noticed that you got a new page, a new header.
It's not new. We've been using this one for a while. But again,
on there.
Yeah, it's there.
What's the green one?
The green one is Washington District for Columbia, which is that's a Moore on the flag. That's the original George Washington. He is that's the original Washington. Not state of Washington, not Washington State. It is Washington, the land. Here. This is the original judicial district for Washington. We saw it on a map from like the 1800s.
Okay. And then, the other day I had found a video online on YouTube with, I think his name was King Abdullah, when he was representing you for court.
You know what? He didn't. He didn't represent me because no one represents the Moors. I didn't know that all of that was going on. I didn't know he was doing that. I was just doing what we do.
Right.
And he never came there and appeared there or anything like that.
No video. Right.
Yeah. It probably wouldn't be appropriate to say he represented or anything.
No, I wouldn't say represented because he's not an attorney, but he came there in your not presentness. So.
That's a good way to put that, because I was doing court myself.
You're handling business.
Yeah.
But I love how he rebutted the court and how he, made the judge even was quiet, was listening, was, dumbfounded.
Yeah, that wasn't a real judge. That wasn't we had already seated that one. All of them. We had already seated them. But I appreciate that many Moors so many Moors called in to that place that it just wasn't even funny. So many called in. And we appreciate that. He happened to record what he did. And I appreciate that he felt that much care for us and love for us to do that. However, we didn't call anybody and say, hey, can you represent me? We don't do that.
Right.
We don't do that. But everyone knows that about us. Right. So, we appreciate what he did. I didn't know he did that.
Some of the things that he was saying, it gave me some inspiration because, I'm representing myself for court. So now I know what to say to the judge and the quote unquote judge and the prosecutor and everything, and how to rebut them,
Yeah. First and foremost, just make sure you don't call them that. That's most important out of all of that, because identity is everything when you are presenting yourself.
They're the subject, of course.
Of course. Islam. Yeah. Thank you, Empress, for that, and thank you for being here. We're just honored that you're here.
And I've been missing you guys. I just couldn't wait today. I missed a couple of sessions of the little vacation that we had, so I had to get back on the schedule.
Yeah.
Glad I was able to make it today. I enjoyed our Congress.
Yeah, indeed, Islam. Thank you, Empress.
You're welcome.
Appreciate you, and we're excited for you also. Thank you for demonstrating your status. That's most important.
Yeah.
Because there's so many of us demonstrating.
Mm-hmm.
You know.
And I just did.
Empress, what territory are you at?
I'm in South Florida territory.
South Florida. Okay. Indeed. Beautiful place. Beautiful place to demonstrate also.
Yes. I'm going to start my website so I can also be continue to give the information and help other people. You know, my best friend, she's been wanting to know what's going on and how to get on. I've been teaching her sister, these people, my family, so.
Beautiful. Empress, you're a light then. You are a light to your family.
It's like when you teach me, and I just want to continue to just spread the wisdom, spread the knowledge, because once you learn something, you don't just hold on to it and be selfish with it. You want to help others too. You want to help others become free, because we got to all pitch in together to govern this land. The land that I'm living on right now, one of my ancestors, they own this entire city, and this is where Bill Gates live at, where I live. And once that information comes out, I'm going to need some help to govern this town. I can't do it all on my own. There's going to be a lot of mad people,
Yeah. Indeed. That's interesting that you would bring up the subject Bill Gates. That was the first lien, one of the first liens we did. Because he, that particular subject was here first at Washington territory. And so that was one of the first things that we did besides the U.S. Yeah.
He probably has multiple, locations, but I know this area is very popular because of the equestrian, and his daughter is an equestrian, loves to ride horses. So there's a lot of big, beautiful mansions in the state. So I'm like, I can't wait for this pad to come through because it is affidavit because I'm going to take over an estate. I'm going to need an estate because it's a bad people come after me, huh?
Prepare the process so that you know how to govern it. Prepare.
I have been prepared. I've been trying to get, people on board and generals and telling them, witnesses, I'll give y'all, as long as you be my general or my police, y'all got to have courts and police stations and, police, different people that have our backs, because it's going to be a lot of mad people when I start going eviction.
Well, Empress, we won't really have a need for guns or weapons or anything like that when we do the process properly. When we do, and this is what we're seeing all across the board, and I know for some it doesn't look like that, just keep demonstrating.
So, but how do you do that when it's like a whole landmass? What the process is?
The same way anyone else would have done it. They did it by paper first.
Yeah,
they
but
did it by paper.
You had individuals' names on those papers, So I'm going to have to go and find all the individuals that live in the area and put them on paper? Like, is that how it works?
Well, let the Spirit lead you on how best to do that. Because we've had liens where we had 5,000 people on one lien. And we've had liens where we had only one or two.
How long did it take you for the 5,000 people lien?
Yeah. So we just do whatever the Spirit leads us to do regarding who. Because notice to agent is notice to principal, and notice to principal is notice to agent. So with that being stated, thanks so much, Empress. We say that we send you our highest honors and keep going. That's what we say. That is our statement, indeed. I wanted to bring up a word or a phrase that we that we saw in Black's Law Dictionary 4th edition, and of course we restated it. But it's called creditor at large. Does anyone know what being at large means? When someone says that this person is at large, what does that mean?
Islam, does that mean a fugitive at large?
It means missing. It does mean missing. Yeah. And if they escaped from prison, then they would be a fugitive. Yes. They would be considered at large. Justice Akil, what were you stating? So, creditor at large. Well, one who has not established his identity status by the recovery of a judgment, that means there's a court involved, or has not otherwise secured a lien on any of the, and it says debtor's property, but you know, debtors can't own property. Debtors don't own property, or they wouldn't be a debtor, they'd be a creditor, right? So creditor at large, that was us in the previous era's enactment. We were the creditors at large. That means we hadn't established by the process who we really are. Because even where identity is concerned, in order to establish your identity, there is a process for that. The process is called statement, making a statement, proclamation, declaration, statement, whether it be written or verbal or both. So the creditor at large, one who has not established identity status by the recovery of a judgment. How do you recover a judgment if you're not the court? How do you do that? It's impossible. It's really impossible. Because
you have to use a bond.
If you're doing it by court action, yes, because bonds always go through a court. A bond does not. It's not a proper bond if it hasn't gone through a court.
Would this be considered as like unclaimed assets? Surplus funds?
It could be unclaimed. It could be stated that it's unclaimed assets. It could be stated that.
Because I know they do that a lot with the when a lot of people lose their homes because of taxes, and if they resell it at an auction, sometimes those previous homeowners have money left over that they don't know about in the court. They just keep the money and keep it there for a certain length of time until they can collect it and keep it for themselves.
Well, you know, that proves that the people were getting money from their own trust in the first place. If there's because, see, all that's doing is switching who's the debtor and who's the creditor. Because if there's some money outstanding that they owe, that makes them a debtor. It doesn't make them the creditor. They're proving that they're the debtors. By selling selling the house at auction, and then anything that's left over is supposed to go back to the one they took the house from in the first place because they were saying the person was a debtor.
Right.
That doesn't make any sense, does it?
No, not at all.
It doesn't. It doesn't.
People, they buy the property for more than the taxes that were owed. So that money that it has to go back to the homeowners. It was like extra income.
Yes, it should go back to the homeowner because the homeowner is the owner of the home in the first place. But they don't realize that. Okay, and then the state is who's doing the tax piece. That's the state. It's the county or the state.
Because if the homeowners know that they have excess funds and they're hoping that they never find out so that they can keep it because they have like a couple of years to claim it, and then once they don't claim it, then they can keep it. And they've been doing it for millions, trillions of dollars now. You know,
Islam Empress. So the thing is with the original deed, when they record that at the deeds office, you have signed it. Your signature is on there. But sometimes they have a signature on there too, but they call you the borrower and them the lender.
Yeah.
But how does that work?
When they didn't have anything to do with the mortgage.
Right, because they have gotten the money off of your signature, off of your promissory note.
And that's why we don't contract with them. That's why we don't. But again, Empress, I'm glad you stated that because it's showing you the process.
Right.
They don't have.
I really don't know what made me go down there and get that deed. Because the one I had, they gave me did not have their signature on it. And I guess I was curious enough just to go be nosy and find out if they recorded something different down there than what they gave me, and it turned out that they had.
Of course. Of course.
Islam. I think a lot of times that they can do that is because you don't notice this, but those titles, like our vehicle titles and our deeds, they all look like birth certificates, which is security or a bond. So I think that they're doing the same thing with those documents and bonding them and insuring them.
Of
and
course.
Don't tell us anything about it.
Of course.
And they be made millions of dollars, sometimes billions of dollars off of these large loans and stuff. But we don't know it. And then if you miss a note, has anyone looked up what a mortgage really is?
It's a debt pledge.
It's a dead pledge. And then I found out, even with it being a dead pledge, when we send them, they tell us to send them mortgage notes. Those notes don't even go towards the payment of your mortgage. It goes into a real estate investment trust.
And a lot of times they raid those real estate investment trusts. They raid them and pull money out. So you haven't really paid anything because you can't pay a debt with a debt anyway. And they're just proving that to you.
Right. You can't pay a debt with a debt. And then there's one brother, Kim Toubé, I believe I was hearing him talk about that too. And he said with a mortgage, when you paying into that trust like that, if you read your mortgage properly, they are supposed to be sending you back dividends every month on that payment. That you make, but they don't do it. If you don't hold them to it, then you never get it.
Well, and you're not gonna get it anyway because they're bankrupt. See, that's what I'm saying. They started out there acting bankrupt. So you're never, you can never get ahead with that. You can never get ahead.
That's what I was going to ask you too. Why would you file bankruptcy? Is it to get rid of the mortgage? Can you really get?
It's supposed to be to get rid of it, but you don't really get rid of it depending on how the bankruptcy turns out.
That's right.
See, some people, and everyone really, most people, when they file bankruptcy, they think that they've gotten rid of everything. No, they still have to pay monthly payments.
Yes, you do.
So you haven't done anything with the debt except compound it.
And that's why I don't want to file bankruptcy, because they threw me out of bankruptcy court and told me that I could come back in April. And I see yesterday I had gotten a call from the bankruptcy court. I don't even want to use their attorneys. I don't want to do the bankruptcy.
You're not supposed to do it, Empress. You're not bankrupt. You're the creditor. But Empress, let me just say this to you, and I'll be frank if you'll allow me.
Okay.
You have to do the processes. You are going to have to learn the lien, levy, and bond process. You're going to have to. And I know there's been some resistance in your spirit to learning those processes.
Well, I want to do it in my spirit. I really want to do it. I don't know if I haven't really got it done yet.
Well, you said you don't know why you haven't got it done?
Right. I guess I'm afraid of doing the paperwork, of knowing how to file the paperwork.
Well, and you don't have to file it with them. It's filed with your court when you do it, and you just notify them that your court has spoken.
Okay.
And at some point, Empress, the ancestors are really encouraging you to do that process, because this has come up several times on this in Congress.
Right.
So you're being prompted in the spirit realm to do those processes, to at least take the time to know them. You're being prompted by the spirit to do that. The spirit will not strive always.
Islam.
So just a moment. So you must learn the processes, Empress, and do them. Once you get started on them, they're not going to be super difficult, because the processes are already on the record on how to do them. I mean, we videotaped the process word for word.
Yes, I did listen to your video too.
Well, Empress, I think, and this is just what I'm hearing in the spirit realm about that. You are paralyzed by fear, and you may not know that.
Okay.
And so we bind the spirit of fear, and we cast that spirit of fear out, so that you can do those processes, because the process is on the public record for you to do it. And the ancestors have been pushing you, because you've mentioned it, not because of anything we said, but because you've mentioned it several times.
Well, I'm going to go ahead and try to put it together. I would need someone to kind of help check it over once I get it done. Is that possible?
Of course, Empress. There's a whole Congress here that can assist you with that. And look in the chat, Empress.
Okay.
They're saying that they will help as well.
Okay.
But here's the thing, Empress. The ancestors will to speak to you through your spirit. They are really enthusiastic about connecting with your spirit that way.
Okay.
To the point, because they're trying to establish trust with you that goes beyond your fear. They will to connect in your chakras with you specifically about you and about this process. Okay. They will for you to trust them, because guess what? They've been protecting you all this time. Mm-hmm. All this time, because think about you haven't given fiat in a while on a quote unquote mortgage.
Mm-hmm.
They've been protecting you while you work through your fear. And the best way to work through your fear is to go ahead and get started on actually typing out the paperwork or writing out the paperwork if you're going to write it out. However you're going to do it, start on the paperwork. Don't worry about what it's going to look like in the end. Don't worry about the process in terms of getting it perfect. They will that you start so that they can speak to you through your hands.
Okay.
And that doesn't require anyone else's assistance. They will to connect with you because there's some fear in you that they want to banish.
All right. Thank you.
So, and that goes for everyone who has a process that they know they should be doing, that they've not started working on. You've been putting it off, even if it's just nationality. You must demonstrate that process by going ahead and get started. Just get started. No one's saying finish it just in one day. Just get started on it and stay with it. And and we're speaking to everyone at this point about anything that the ancestors have been prompting you to do in your spirit. Go ahead and get started on it. Don't wait for someone to stamp and seal your documents when you have a right red thumbprint. Don't wait for witnesses. Don't wait for anything. Go ahead and get started. And if it's just you, then you sign it, you stamp it and seal it. We've done that. And the ancestors have honored the process because we were willing to go ahead and get started.
All right, thank you.
Islam. Empress, we're still with you. Still.
Islam.
We've been observing.
I did do that mortgage, and I sent out 8 letters a couple of days ago.
So, Empress, simplify this process. Just simplify it. As simple as you can get it, but still get it done. Simplify it in your spirit, and while you're doing it, just keep it simple and complete it. Keep it simple and complete it.
Okay.
Yeah. Islam.
Islam.
Sometimes we've had to do demonstrations. We had to do one day before yesterday, and I'll say this. I'm just so surprised at how quickly we get things done these days. It hasn't taken 3 and 4 days like it used to take to get things done. I've been able to get it done in one day, a couple of hours, and get it out into the mail the next day, or hand deliver it the next day.
Mm-hmm.
And this previous or last demonstration that I just did, I didn't even feel any fear. I didn't feel any fear at all. I just did. I knew what to do. I had to think about it for about an hour about how am I going to approach this demonstration here? How do I approach this? And then I thought about it and I said, okay, I'll do it this way, because there's a couple of different ways things can be done. The ancestors are saying now, simplify. You have your status on the public record. You've done the testing and the demonstrating and all of that. Simplify. Just simplify.
Okay.
Yeah.
I got those first documents done, like the first 5 or 6.
Yeah. Well, Empress, simplify, but don't remain frozen in place. Go ahead and move on it. And I can assure you that once you get started, you're going to realize you didn't really need any help from anybody in the first place. Once you get started,
okay,
you're going to know that. You're going to feel it because your spirit knows what to do. We've been there many times, and, with all of these processes, we couldn't wait for someone to help us. We had to go ahead and do it. And then the ancestor said, okay, now that you've done that, publish what you've done, share it with others, and then move on. Take a break, take a rest if you have to, take a week of not doing anything if you have to, but then get back up and go again. That's how we've done all that we've done. Is just do it. Just start somewhere. You have to start somewhere. That has been our motto, so to speak. Is just start somewhere, and the spirit will lead you.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
You're welcome, Empress.
Big help.
Thank you, Empress.
I'm gonna get there. I promise you.
Empress, you know what? I already know you're there already. You just got to get started. You're there already. It's just a little bit of fear and we know we can see in the spirit realm what's going on. We can see in the spirit realm. And we say you already have the victory.
All right. Thank you.
You are omnific, Empress.
And I have felt victory in my spirit.
Yeah.
I felt some changes.
Yeah. And we will to remove that fear energy. We'll take it and cast it out. We do that right now.
All right.
Islam.
Islam, we affirm.
Islam.
Thank
you.
So here on the screen, Moors, you can see that a lien is part of the process that creditors do where property is concerned. A court action is part of the process. There it is right there. Recovery of a judgment. That's a court action. Secured a lien. That's a court action, and it's a lien process. We're not at large anymore. We're here. We're on the land, and we're doing what we do, which is govern. Here's another, just a moment, let me pull this one together. Just a moment so we can see the whole thing. And we can see the whole thing. So this says, peace of the state, the protection, security, and immunity from violence, which the state undertakes to secure and extend to all persons within its jurisdiction and entitled to the benefit of its laws. So for those thinking about gunning up, state up, okay? State up. We're the state. We've already proclaimed statehood on the public record. We state that you don't have to attend this Congress in order to utilize the processes that we've done. We encourage you to do so, though, because you should be governing, and we're doing that in a unified manner. But if you will to be the state along with us, which all Moors already are anyway, that must be done for your protection, security, and immunity from violence. This doesn't say anything about a gun. Doesn't say anything about a policy enforcer. This is part of the definition of murder. Think about that. It being necessary that the victim should be in the peace of the state, which now practically includes all persons except armed public enemies. What is that saying? And again, this is the definition according to the dead. They're admitting that. But in order to have peace, they had to agree to be in a dead state, a dead state, to get some relief from those who were armed. And that's where they got peace from in the previous era, and protection from Moors who were armed, but not competent. Because we're not at war. Peace of the state. Again, the protection, security, and immunity from violence, which the state undertakes to secure and extend to all persons within its jurisdiction and entitled to the benefit of its laws. And that's why statehood was so important for us. It was for the protection of all. And again, we say that, no one is under our state. Our subjects are under our protection, which is under our state. But the Moors, the sovereigns, you are the state. You are the state. Your protection comes from competence at being the state. It doesn't come from guns and weapons. It doesn't. It comes from you properly stating protection, security, and immunity. And it's not an individual that protects you, it's the state that protects you. That's why we say, I and all Moors are doing all this, that, and other. Just saying. All Moors are part and parcel for the state. All Moors are not just part, you're the whole state. We're all the whole state together. Any Moors who choose to be a part of this process and the Congress and the state, feel free. That's why we put the documents on. That's why you can Google our documents. They're everywhere. Because Moors know who the state is. The state is not a thing. The state is the living people. the Empire State. And then our states, Washington, Florida, Alabama, Texas, New York, North Carolina, South Carolina, it's the land. And see, they were saying that all persons had been murdered by the state, quote unquote. Why? Because no one was rebutting a dead state until the Moors, who have the authority to rebut a dead state. Our teachers, our, R.V. Bay, Empress Rosmaraya, Grand Sheikh Taj, and Kemetu, Justice Kemetu, and some of the others, Justice Abdullah, Justice Shem, because they were doing this long before we woke up, and they were rebutting the state, quote unquote, or those claiming to be the state, when they knew that our brothers and sisters and teachers are the state. We are the state. Now look at this one, because see, a lot of times people did not know here. They didn't know what role those that were previously doing business as a Vatican and all of that were playing. Peace of God and the church. In Old English law, that rest and cessation which the king's subjects had from trouble and suit of law between the terms and on Sundays and holidays. And that's why the subjects went to church on Sunday. That was supposed in their enactment. That was a day that they went to church, and there was supposedly no courts going on Sunday. That's what suit of law is. And quote unquote courts were closed on holidays and so on and so forth. That's for the subjects. We govern all the time. We have court on Sunday. We open our court with our court action language every Sunday. That's proof that we're not subjects. We're the law. We can have court anytime. We've had court on holy days. Allah wills that we govern. And we're the court no matter what day it is, no matter what time. We're the court in our sleep. We do court actions even at night when we're resting. We dream about court actions. So, again, we're always the law. That's what being the law is, Islam. Are there any questions, comments, wisdom, etc., about what we stated thus far?
Islam nobility. Much praise. Just 11 or 12 seconds. I'm trying to get the communication concept with the bonds and the levy. If you just affirm for me, the office is levied and the internal revenue is notified. And on the bond, the office is levied or bonded, and the Secretary of State, just say Tennessee for me, and Washington, and D.C., Office of D.C. Mayor is notified. Is that all, or is there something I'm missing?
Anything else that your spirit says regarding notification? Other than that, that is a listing properly stated. It must be properly stated. Yeah. Regarding the address, regarding the address and who's who and what's what. We're notifying our offices, from where we are. We notify our offices. The mayor's office, that notification, you can do that one or not do that one, really, because no one's there except us. We're there, really. Because of, quote unquote, the COVID enactment, everybody basically abandoned. So that's why we state, ensure that you put it on the public record. And when you put it on the public record, notice to agent is notice to principal, notice to principal is notice to agent. Islam. And whoever your spirit says, whatever your spirit prompts you to do. Islam.
Islam, I have a quick question.
Yes, Islam, Empress.
When you do your court actions and the perpetrators do not show, do you just do your final judgment, or do you have to follow all the other steps as far as the court proceedings?
You issue judgment that same day with that same court action, whether they show up or not.
Okay. Because I didn't know if I had.
It's called ex parte.
Ex parte.
Mm-hmm. Or in absentia.
How do you spell that?
IN space A B as in boy SENTIA.
Okay.
In absentia or ex parte or straight up absconded. And those are varying degrees of the same action, basically, that no one's there.
Mm-hmm.
Abandonment and all of that.
Thank you.
You're welcome, Empress. When you hear that the quote-unquote middle class is disappearing, the middle class, the reason why the actors were so concerned about the middle class missing is for this reason right here. Middle class, a person entitled to the privileges of a municipal corporation. That says it all. No rights, just privileges that can be taken at will by those with the rights. The bourgeois or Borg. Whenever you hear someone with the last name Berg or Burge, like Steenberg or Steenberger, Steinberger, or something of that nature, those names are the root word and have this sort of a meaning. A lot of those with that, the Bergs and the Steins come from Europe. A lot of that comes from Europe. There are some Moors with those.
Islam, can't hear you, Empress.
Holy appellation means this: municipal corporation and a municipality. We govern municipalities because the government is not a corporation, according to the Clearfield Doctrine. Islam. That is all that we will present today.
Frankenstein, Pauline, you fucking bitch.
Are there any other questions, comments, wisdom?
Why didn't you get your conveyance yet, or your cell service? Why?
No,
Why haven't you?
No cell phone, no conveyance.
You must have took their domicile because they'd be so mad.
Oh, nothing
They
commanded.
don't
You've
have
gotten
anything.
nothing.
They have absolute. They didn't even own domiciles. We couldn't even. They didn't even own them.
Mm-hmm.
They didn't make it that far in the process.
Oh, wow.
So
I own my domicile, but you don't have a conveyance.
there was nothing to take. And that's why they, you know, there was nothing to take. Nothing to take in their enactment.
That's because you're fucking delusional.
In their enactment, nothing. If there be no further,
you're fucking delusional.
No further comments or wisdom from this great, mighty, holy Congress. Congress, please know that
it's my solar return tomorrow, Islam.
Happy solar return early, Empress.
Happy solar return, Empress Angel.
Happy solar return indeed.
Happy solar return, Empress, and many, many, many more.
Thank you, thank you.
Just want to let everybody know.
Happy solar return, Empress. Happy solar return. Yeah.
Thank you.
Happy solar return. Love, much hugs and much kisses, and do what's right. Islam.
Yes, indeed, indeed.
Gratitude.
Thank you, thank you. Gratitude to everyone.
Islam. Anyone else have a solar return coming up? We want to make sure we include everyone. Does anyone else have a solar return coming up as well? Anyone else? Yours was on Sunday?
Yeah. Get the
What does that mean?
Justice Kansu, oh, we love you.
What
Happy
does that
solar
mean?
return.
Well, the so
Huh?
What is a solar return?
A born day. A birthday. Born day.
Oh, okay.
We say solar return.
Mm.
Yeah. That many rotations around the sun.
Mm.
Yeah. Because we are sun people.
Star seeds. I ain't got that in my phone.
Yes.
Seen the angel number and I looked that up. I've seen the star seed. I said, what does that mean? And it says something about star seeds or people that came from, stars.
Yes.
I might be related. Something like that.
Yeah. And the sun is a star, by the way.
Mm.
The sun is indeed a star.
We're star seeds. We never die.
Yeah.
We are the children of the sun.
Oh, not the children. We're the adults. We're the majors.
That's right. We're the adults.
We are the majors.
Yes, indeed, indeed, indeed. Enjoy the full moon, Morris. And this time around, I'll just say this really quickly. I fasted from negative energy, which is always the case, and I fasted to gardening and just growing more food and things of that nature. So enjoy the full moon energy. Get out and see the full moon because it's so beautiful. I mean, the energy was really strong this month, extremely strong this month. And I know it has everything to do with where we are, because the moon and the celestial bodies announce what we've already done. They announce it sometimes ahead of time and sometimes in celebration of prior to. So, yeah. Empress Royalty, is that you saying that you do identifications?
Yes, I do everything. Tags, identification, titles, insurance, everything.
So, what form of payment do you accept?
I accept delium.
Okay. Because we that's the only thing that we deal in is delium, gold, and silver. If you will to have people give you silver coinage or gold coinage, you could say that as well.
Mostly delium says everything is transaction is digital these days. So.
Yes, yes. And then and delirium can be sent over the email and everything. So, and then you're paying back your trust in advance.
Yes.
You do things like that.
I'm just paying back to the ancestors. I just give back to, to my God, which is me, and I do things because of the spirit telling me to do things. So I've been blessed with all the supplies to do this, and I really want to help people. I want to help us.
Yeah. These are donations, just a few I pulled from the stacks and stacks of donations, and we haven't even put all of them out there, but these are donations that we deposit into our bank from Moore's, and we try to keep track of everything. Our email is jam-packed still. We still have many donations that we have to continue pulling from our email, so our trust is fully funded 100%, and most of your trusts are fully funded too, just by way of the activities that you've been doing. So, let's keep moving forward because we have complete justification for everything that we will to have.
Check your mail.
Islam, indeed. Islam, Justice Kansu.
The printing machine that you have, what's the model? What's the model of it?
It's an HP M as in more, 454D as in do it, W as in we won.
Okay, understand.
It's a color LaserJet Pro M as in more, 454DW.
Thank you.
Islam, indeed. Thank you to Nobility. And with that being stated, I have nothing further for the Congress today. We will adjourn and meet again on Sunday at 6 p.m. Eastern. Peace and grand rising to the sovereign, original, indigenous, natural, divine heirs. Islam.
Peace and grand rising.
Islam.
Islam.
Peace and grand rising.
Thank you, everybody.
Much love,
Islam.
joy, peace, and success.
Yes, indeed.
Thank you for my condition. Islam.
Love and peace.
Love and peace, indeed. Islam.